is Whataburger Friday Night Stars, presented by Game On Sports, live from the Star in Frisco, Texas, and the Dallas Cowboys headquarters. Here's Kyle Yeomans, Zach Wolchuk, Eric Chiafalo, and Heckma Harrison.
Oh, back here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars overtime. How about let's get things started in Garland. Allen Rockwall, 81 yards on the tunnel screen, up the middle. Oh, is he going to make it? Stiff arm, throws it to the ground. And Rockwall takes it to the house. Let's go to Midlothian versus Reedy. This one at the Star in Frisco. Midlothian up the middle, 51 yards out on the touchdown run. Unfortunately, Midlothian falls to Reedy. How about this one? Let's go to Lovejoy versus Alito.
Jake Bishop.
Nope. Nope.
Jake Bishop going down.
Oh, he is going down. It's a big sack from behind. Little special teams action.
Allen?
How about a 43-yard field goal from those Allen Eagles as they look to knock off Rockwall? And then one for myself. How about a pick six from Waco Midway?
The alma mater?
From the alma mater themselves.
We all should have picked Waco Midway.
You should have, and you should have indeed.
Love it.
As they lead big over Saxe. What a day it's been. What a week it's been of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Texas high school football playoffs are here. As I'll throw that down on the ground.
What's up, Mama Chiafalo?
They're all there.
Hi, Mrs. Yeomans.
Oh, Mrs. Yeomans is always here.
Hi,
Mrs.
Mrs.
Yeomans
Heckma
never
Harrison.
watches. It's okay.
She's always locked in.
She's locked in on Midway High School football as of the moment. But, man, what a week it's
she
been.
was a China Springs alum.
She is a China Springs alum. And China Springs trying to make a comeback right now in Argyle. It's not going very well, though. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. Glad you're with us here for Overtime. Whataburger Friday Night Stars. We'll be here up until 11 o'clock, live from the Star in Frisco in the SWBC Mortgage Studios. Zach Wolchuk over there. I'm Kyle Yeomans, your host. And Mr. Eric Chiafalo also joining us. Do want to give a quick shout out while we've got the camera on me. Bob Lilly Promotions hooking us up with the great swag, the jackets and the polos looking real nice week in and week out. Zach's got the polo on as you're rocking, looking sharp.
Bob Lilly
It's
Promotions, thank you.
It's not easy to make us look great, you know. And
It is not.
Bob Lilly Promotions comes in here and hits a home run. We've been getting flooded with tweets how great we look.
It's true. We have been being flooded with tweets, not just about how great we look, but
And by the way, thank you to all the fans who tweet,
Yes.
like, and watch Friday Night Stars. If it weren't for you, then we wouldn't be doing a show. We're bringing this to you. You're not able to make it to the game. Something's happening, so you can stay updated on all the high school football that's going on in the great state of Texas, because there's nothing better than Texas high school football.
Amen, brother.
yeah, nothing better at all. Zach Wolchuk rocking the polo. Got that. Oh, look at it.
Little
Looking into the
shimmy-shay.
camera. Got a lot of action
What
there.
can I
But
say?
Go-to move right there, the shoulders.
Yeah,
baby.
all I've got is the shoulders.
Yeah.
That's about it. I've got no
Still
rhythm
working on that lower half.
otherwise.
Confident as heck, though.
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. That's all you need sometimes is a little bit of confidence. Unfortunately, we are missing our good buddy Heckma Harrison, who's usually sitting in that chair. We even got a water for him over there. Actually, I think that might be my water.
It's crazy. He's actually had quite a few sips of
Yeah,
it.
he's out glamping. He's in the woods. We saw his predictions earlier.
Yeah, he said he was camping, but there's no tents involved. It looks like he had
No,
a nice
no, he's
size,
in a
looked like
cabin.
a
He's
in a
4-bedroom
nice-
cabin.
He's got AC, he's got the heater.
I'm going to go ahead and sneak this water
got a
back
nice
while I got
grill.
a chance.
Yeah,
But
no, Heckman's living the life right now.
he is living the life, and we're
Getting
glad.
his nails done, mani-pedis.
Yeah, we're glad to have him alongside us for the rest of the season. But he is enjoying a Thanksgiving weekend with the family as much as hopefully a lot of you have been able to do over the weekend. But how about a Thanksgiving weekend full of football? And let's start things off 6A Division I. We're going to take a look real quickly at this Franklin and Trinity game. This game went final earlier. We ran through it in the first show, but we're going to start there as Trinity just absolutely dismantles El Paso Franklin. And really the Trinity Trojans looking much like the team we thought they were heading into that Haltom matchup as they continue to really just put big numbers up on the board over the last couple of weeks, guys.
They've done what Trinity football does, right? And that's just run the football. A.J. Barnett running for 159 yards. Trinity, look, they had 396 total rushing yards, as you see there, at 576 total yards on the day in this victory. They'll play either South Lake Carroll or DeSoto, whoever wins that matchup tomorrow, next week in the regional semifinals. So Trinity, they've struggled early on in some games here and there. Obviously, the game against Haltom, I think, was one of the ones where people were looked at and said, okay, but Holtham's proven to be undefeated and one of the better teams in the area. So that's their one loss. I don't think that that's a bad blemish on the year, but Trinity's played the kind of football we expect from the Trojans. Today it was A.J. Barnett that got the job done for the most part. Otherwise, Brandon Theus, they've had a variety of guys that can do it. They're big and physical on the line of scrimmage, and that's the way the Trojans win.
Yeah, and they've been doing it all year with Brandon Theus, but you mentioned it was A.J. Barnett today, and I don't know if Theus got hurt or what it was, but he didn't have much of a workload, only 2 carries. He had 32 yards, so it wasn't like he was playing poorly. So I don't know if he got banged up or what the deal is, but he's been the guy they've depended on all year, and that would be a huge loss for them if they go into next week against whether it's Southlake or DeSoto. Either way, heck of a game, tough matchup. If you go in there without your workhorse, your guy, Brandon Theus, who's been your best offensive player all year, even though you saw A.J. Barnett step up today, and props to him, you got to do that sometimes. Man, if they don't have Theus next week, that's going to be a massive loss for Trinity.
Yeah, it's a massive loss for Trinity anytime you lose a guy of that stature overall, but heading into this part of the playoffs, that's kind of how it goes. Sometimes you might drop a couple of those guys.
Also, look at this stat right here from Lockie Ellis, the quarterback. We know Trinity doesn't throw that much. They only threw it 9 times, 4 completions for 180 yards, 45 yards per reception, per completion for him. So, my goodness, we know Trinity likes to run the ball, but when they throw it, they are efficient when they do it, and today was no different. But, man, if they don't have Theus, that's going to be trouble next week.
Yeah, it's going to be trouble next week no matter who they end up playing against, because we'll take a quick look at this. We previewed it in the first show, but we'll look through it again. Southlake Carroll and DeSoto, definitely a game worth mentioning one more time because of how incredible this matchup is. And looking at Arlington Lamar and Odessa Permian, let's go to that game instead. 538 total yards of Arlington Lamar over Odessa Permian. This is on the bottom half of that Region 1 bracket.
What a game, man.
And what a game this was. Back and forth. This game was tied at 35 late in the fourth quarter, and Lamar was able to just kind of pull away at the end.
Yeah, and Lamar jumped out to the early lead. That's what was so impressive. When we were closing down shop in the pregame show, we were talking about how Permian had made a ginormous comeback in the first half. They made it a game, then they went back and forth. Look, even turnovers. Look at the total yardage there. We know about Jack Dawson and Lamar. They put up points and yards like crazy. Permian with that rushing attack fought back, which was just amazing that they're able to do that with that rushing attack. But, man, Jack Dawson and company get the job done, Zach.
And it was impressive for Jack Dawson because we've talked all year about the numbers that he's been putting up, but he had 3 interceptions today, one of which was a 97-yard pick six by Christian Schauner late in that fourth quarter that put Permian up big in that one. So a little bit of an adversity for Jack Dawson, and I'm always a fan, whether it's an individual or a team, players that are able to overcome that kind of situation. And for a guy who had so much success all year long on the biggest stage in this area playoff game against a storied program that is Odessa Permian and the mojo of the Panthers, to be able to rally the troops and to come back and get a big victory for Arlington Lamar. Great performance by Jack Dawson, overcoming the adversity of throwing those 3 picks.
What was it earlier? Jack Dawson, he couldn't overcome the Titanic, but
he wasn't able to survive the Titanic, but he is moving on to the regional semifinal.
Amen, baby. Had a boy, Jack.
Yeah. You got to love it. Got to love it overall. But looking at Odessa Permian and Lamar, they'll face the winner of Louisville and Duncanville. We'll preview that game here really quickly. As we looked at it earlier, Louisville, of course, coming off of a big win in their first round matchup against Keller, a very tight one, 33-27. But then you look at Duncanville, they struggled early against South Grand Prairie, pulled away late, and there's still a Duncanville team that's very good and could end up really making a run at the state championship at the 6A D1 level.
Yeah, all season Duncanville's been absolutely dominant, plus 493 point differential. I'm not for sure. I'm sure Allen would say something about it, but I don't know. That might be the highest in the area, if not the state. That point differential is insane. They've been absolutely putting it on people. Number 1 defense in the area, regardless of classification. Jaquindon Jackson last week, 180 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's obviously their guy, but their defense, South Grand Prairie scored 14 points in the first half. They ended up shutting them out in the second half. That defense got back to what they were. They forced a safety, and that's thanks to punter Anthony Cruz. He might be the X factor in this game tomorrow. It's funny you bring up a punter in a game of this magnitude. Well, Cruz last week pinned whoever it was that they were playing. I can't even remember whoever it was, or South Grand Prairie, down to the 1-yard line 2 times, and that allowed Duncanville to end up getting a safety. Louisville offensively, not anything to write home about, but last week A.J. Newsome accounted for 4 touchdowns. He's going to need to have one of those just amazing games because Louisville is not the kind of team offensively that's going to do it. Him or Ben McAfee, Dalen Clark, somebody's going to have the game of their life because if Duncanville comes to play like they have all season, and I know they started off a little slow last week, Duncanville's certainly the better team here with Jaquindon Jackson and that offense combined with that dominant defense, the duffel bag boys, as Heckma likes to call them. So Louisville, hopefully this is going to be a low-scoring, ugly game. That's how they've won all year. I said the point differential for Duncanville, well, for Louisville, it's only plus 109. So it's not like they've been down. They've been edging out ugly victories all season. That's what they want tomorrow. But it's 2 fantastic defenses coming to play.
And for Louisville, they've just found ways to win, whether it's special teams, defensive scores. I didn't know that they necessarily beat a Keller team. You know, we had Nick Nepic on and talked about how they were a little bit banged up, especially with one of their better players on the defensive side of the football. A.J. Newsome and company just finding a way to get that thing done. And it's one of their freshmen. I think it's a freshman or a sophomore receiver, and I'm blanking on his name. It might be Clark. But he's a freak of nature, and he had a big play coming back. There was an interception thrown in that football game. He comes back, makes the tackle. It's just little things like that for this Louisville team. They've been kind of on an unparalleled Cinderella run. But Duncanville, certainly a team that a lot of people, preseason, I picked them to win a state championship. We'll see how that goes because Allen's looking like an absolute juggernaut, and they would meet down the line in the state semifinal if both teams continue to win. But an outstanding matchup of 2 great defenses. I just think Jaquindon Jackson for Duncanville is probably the best offensive player on the football field.
He sure is. And just the overall rushing attack for Duncanville. They have a 3-headed monster. With Jackson, we know what he can do from the quarterback position with his legs, but they also got Tristan Smith, who's got 900 yards and 13 touchdowns on the ground this year, and Javon Fountain, 600 yards and 7 touchdowns on the ground this year. They run the ball tremendously well, and if Louisville, we know they have a great defense, but that's going to be a tremendously tough test to slow down that Duncanville rushing attack.
Yeah, definitely it's going to be a tough test no matter what happens whenever you go up against the Duncanville Panthers on the other side of the football. While we're previewing the Saturday games in this region, I should say, let's go back to that DeSoto South Lake Carroll game where both teams come in just absolutely on fire, and South Lake Carroll undefeated on the season. TJ McDaniel and company, along with head coach Riley Dodge, have just been able to make the run of the schedule pretty easily, despite a couple close games throughout their regular season. But DeSoto, on the other hand, through the District of Doom, having that battle-tested mentality going into this football game, this should really shape up to be quite the football game if it goes in favor of where maybe DeSoto trying to keep this close.
And it's becoming a tradition, right? 3 straight years.
3 straight years. This is the rubber match, baby.
Yeah, it is. Everything's out there on the table, and I think coming into it, probably South Lake Carroll on paper, without a doubt, the better football team.
Yeah.
And I know you talked a lot, Eric, about the running game of both of these teams, and you made a great point in our preview show about Will Bowers. And we know about TJ McDaniel, a Landry Award finalist for South Lake Carroll, the SMU commit. He's going to get his. There's no doubt about it. But I think Will Bowers running the football with his legs is kind of an X factor. DeSoto struggled. DeSoto struggled to slow down the running of Cedar Hill with Trish and their quarterback in that game. And I think they're going up against maybe a better pairing with South Lake Carroll in this one.
Yeah, well, and they gave up over 200 yards rushing to Skyline just last week. So when you think about
a mobile quarterback in Velton Gardner.
Exactly. So when you combine Bowers and McDaniel, and last year when they played, when South Lake won 33-15 in the playoffs, who was it that dominated offensively? It was TJ McDaniel and Will Bowers on the ground, both of those guys. I would imagine that happens again. But listen, DeSoto, great team, still a solid defense, great skill positions. We know about Shandarian Ward. Last week he had 4 touchdown passes. I mean, this is definitely a team that can put up plenty of points. The thing is, South Lake's got an underrated defense, I would say. They gave up negative 30 rushing yards to Coppell last week. And I know Coppell's been banged up, and you can say what you want about him, but that's a team that runs the football. And
Ryan Hurst is one of the area's better backs.
Absolutely. And so when you think about the fact that South Lake absolutely bottled up that defense, and South Lake's just been so consistent all season, 11-0. They've played some good teams. They've had some tight games, but at the end of the day, they've been the clearly better team in every single game they've played. And it's crazy because they've been able to fly under the radar just a little bit. Yeah. And here they are, right where they want to be, with the blonde hair. By the way, I love the blonde hair. The tradition
didn't realize
is incredible.
They were still doing that.
How do you break that tradition? I was having a conversation the other day, and somebody somebody said the same thing, like, they're still doing that? I'm like, well, do you want to be the class to say no? We're not going to do that.
Do it.
Absolutely not.
That's a good
man.
point.
We're going to win 8 state titles to stop dyeing our hair. I mean, give me a break, dude. I think it's incredible. They look awesome, and they're just. I mean, they down 54-10 against Coppell last week. Southlake is playing as good a football as you can get, and DeSoto was tested 55-53 to Skyline last week. So this is going to be fun. Like you mentioned, it's the third time in 3 years they've played, and they've split it so far. This is the rubber match. I think Southlake's got the advantage, but we're probably in for a fantastic game.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an unbelievable game, and if DeSoto could keep it close, then an all-time classic could be in store from that game.
R.J. Mickens, player to watch.
Yeah, R.J. Mickens, two-way, and he's going to be matched up against Chenault for DeSoto as well, who also has played both ways at times. So some outstanding athletes all around on the
They're going to
football
get to know each other. They might be covering each other both ways. So how cool would that be?
That's interesting. Yeah,
Wouldn't
that's funny.
That'd be neat.
Now, looking at really the entire bracket as a whole in that Region 1, 6A Division 1 Region 1 is absolutely stacked. No doubt about it. As you got Trinity already moving on, Arlington Lamar's already moving on, and then it doesn't matter from there.
And
Southlake Carroll or DeSoto or Louisville or Duncanville, you've got an absolute monster of a team waiting for you or is about to be matched up against you here in just the next coming moments.
And I love that it's our area. I mean, look at it, just littered with North Texas football teams
and
here.
it's big time teams.
Absolutely.
I mean, these are big time programs with a lot of legacy. You know, and next week you're looking at a potential Lamar Duncanville matchup if Duncanville were to outlet. Well, either way, whoever comes out of that,
That's
it's an outstanding defense against the offense that is Arlington Lamar.
Yep.
Jack Dawson, who proved, look, I can throw 3 interceptions. I'm also going to throw 4 touchdown passes to lead my team to victory. And then anytime you got Trinity versus either of those schools, whether it's DeSoto or Southlake Carroll, I mean, that is a state semifinal kind of pairing right there in the regional semifinal.
Yeah, that's how good this region of the entire state is. And man, it's been an unbelievable season, not only just in the postseason, but just watching all of these teams kind of unfold their way into that Region 1, Division 1 as well. So now looking down at 6A Division 1 Region 2, this one's just as stacked as can be, and we'll start things off with probably the game of the night. Allen and Rockwall. The Allen Eagles and the Rockwall Yellow Jackets. Man, this was a ball game overall between these two squads, and it was fast-paced from the very beginning, boys.
First play of the game, we get a house call from Smith and Joba.
Jackson, Smith, and Joba. And look, guys, I said it in the pregame.
Yes, you did.
The only 2 teams that have beaten Allen in the playoffs over the last 6 years had
Feels
good
like
offenses. It's been 100 years. They had elite quarterbacks that were going to play at the D1 level. They had an elite receiver that were going to go play
Smith
at the D1 level.
Check.
And they had an explosive offense. The thing was, they were also able to take away Allen's run game. That was not something Rockwall could do here tonight. They came out and they started fast. Those teams got Allen down at least 21 or more to nothing, and Allen had to fight and claw their way back. Well, Rockwall gets up. They strike quickly, as we saw there, the 81-yarder. But it wasn't enough because their defense just couldn't seem to stop the Allen attack. It was ping-pong style, back and forth, each team trading blows. Zach Henry into the end zone for Rockwall. Grant Tisdale into the end zone for Allen. Keldon Manning into the end zone for Allen. Here's Jackson Smith and Jiba with another touchdown catch for Rockwall. Oh, wait, here's Elijah Fisher with a 75-yard bomb from Allen. It was a who's who of who's scoring touchdowns. And Theo Weiss, believe it or not, Theo Weiss, the wide receiver commit to Oklahoma from Allen.
He didn't score?
He didn't score.
Wow.
Till the final touchdown in this game. A minute 42 left to play in the contest. Allen up 45-40 to seal the deal. A 37-yarder from Tisdale to Theo Weiss iced it as Allen gets the win 52-40. But that was the problem. 14 in Navy right there running amok for the Allen Eagles, and Rockwall had absolutely no answer.
Yeah, and we've got Jackson Donovan on the line, who was at this football game. 52-40 the final score. And Jackson, first off, back and forth. This game went from the very get-go. You kind of heard what Zach's explanation of it, which was outstanding, because that's kind of how chaotic it was really from the opening kickoff.
It was an absolutely incredible game. You could not have asked for anything better from 2 top-notch 6A high school football teams.
Jackson, talk to us about really Rockwall and Allen, both offenses we knew would come in and play well. But what was it for Allen's defense? I mean, basically, which defense stepped up and made the plays here? It seems like from afar, you were at the game, you can let us know, Rockwall just wasn't able to stop Allen. Allen, on the other hand, got the necessary stops.
From my vantage point, it was just the size of the defense. They started to run down the Rockwall offense. I mean, you've got Ohio State commit Jackson Smith and Jigby, the top wide receiver for Rockwall, ended up getting hurt in the second half. Barely played in that fourth quarter, even though he ended up with 250-plus receiving yards and 3 touchdowns. He got hurt, and it happened over and over again.
Oh, no.
Wait, who got hurt?
Offense. He came back, but he was limping for the last minute and a half of the fourth quarter.
Oh,
How much of an impact do you think that had on the Rockwall offense?
I think it did more for morale than anything else because they knew he had over 100 yards receiving less than
Almost
halfway through
300.
the second quarter.
Oh, wow.
And so it was more morale than anything. It completely killed their spirits and just destroyed the comeback effort.
So, Jackson, now you got to see, we finally saw a team at least score stride for stride seemingly with Allen. But in your opinion, having seen them up close and personal, what is it going to take to slow down the juggernaut that is Grant Tisdale and company on this Allen offense?
I have absolutely no idea. Grant Tisdale is a beast. I mean, 202 yards passing and then another 150 on the ground. He was absolutely incredible. And a lot of it, in this day and age, you think, okay, there's a lot of quarterback, halfback options. He got almost all of them on straight design runs for the quarterback. He was just incredible on the field. It was the best thing I could call it is poetry in motion.
Was Allen able to just wear down Rockwall's defense with that big offensive line as you were talking about? Was that it at the end of the game? Rockwall just wasn't able to muster the stop because they had just worn him down over 4 quarters with that size?
It really was. Rockwall came out in a 4-3 setup, and just the size of the offensive line for Allen just gave him enough of a push that, I mean, you could look at the stats on paper. They were around 7 yards a carry, and it was too much for Rockwall to take. They held with him early. They definitely came out and punched Allen in the mouth, but just the overall size of Allen gave out in the end.
What was the atmosphere like before we let you go, Jackson? I mean, this was one of the more high-profile games of the area around. How was the atmosphere and emotions at that stadium?
I can sum it up in just a little bit. They sold more tickets than seats in the stands. They were having to turn fans away.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Unbelievable atmosphere and a big-time win for Allen and the Eagles. The most points given up by Allen on the entire 2018 season. The second closest was Plano East, who put up 36 in a 74-36 loss to Allen earlier in the season. Jackson, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Talk to y'all later.
There he goes, Jackson Donovan, who was at Rockwall and Allen, and an offensive back-and-forth football game. But like you said, there's a little bit of hope for some of those teams in scoring against Allen. It's the slowing down Allen that's kind of the toughest part of the whole deal.
They ran the ball 44 times, threw it 13 times. So you can see what their game plan was going in. They felt confident they'd be able to run the ball. And with that offensive line and the depth that they have, when you get into the fourth quarter, that is just a brutal thing for a defense. When they've ran on you with success 30-some-odd times, and then you get into the fourth quarter, I mean, you're going to be exhausted. So when you see Allen, it's good to see them tested. It's good to see them overcome a little something, really probably the first adversity they've really felt all season. But it is exciting because we said if Rockwall just gets dominated in this game, then everybody's in trouble and we can kind of basically crown Allen now. Well, Allen gets the win, but they were certainly challenged. Rockwall did their thing. Jacob Clark, I mean, hey, dude, heck of a day for Clark. 447 yards, completed 68% of his passes, 2 touchdowns. I mean, that's not an easy thing to do against that Allen defense, and it's a shame his number 1 receiver went down when the game, when it mattered most, and Jiba, 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. That dude's unbelievable. I hope he's not, super hurt. But
no, I mean, and he's only a junior. He'll be back for his senior year. And offensively, you could tell Rockwall played with balance throughout the game. And they were able to do that because they stuck with it. They scored stride for stride. The difference was Rockwall's defense just wasn't able to get that stop. I think that's the big question. Those teams that have had success, Rockwall was able to check off a lot of those boxes on the blueprint of how to maybe beat Allen, big-time quarterback in Jacob Clark, the big-time receiver. But could they slow down the rushing attack? And this year's Allen team might be more of a test to do that because you also have to account for Grant Tisdale. And he might be the best runner on this football team. And when you've got an offensive line as big, as strong, as physical, it's going to take a real special defense. The only one, I think, athletically and talent-wise, we've talked about it all year, might be the Duncanville Panthers. Yeah. But they've got a rigorous test just to get through their region to be able to make it to a chance to play Allen. And now it sets up next week. They'll take on the Woodlands, a team that was one of those two, was Westlake in 15, the Woodlands in 16, that beat Allen in that state semifinal.
Well, looking at the bottom half of the bracket before we end up looking at the whole region for Region 2 in the 6A Division I ranks, let's look at Waco, Midway, and Saxe really quickly. Waco, Midway, and the Panthers, I was the only one that picked them. They are my alma mater, so I had to pick them in that regard. But I also picked them very confident in the win. They haven't won yet. Still 7 minutes left in that football game. A lot of time left from Verda Newsom Stadium out in Mansfield. But Midway leads Saxe 42-28. And this has become a little bit more of a football game as of late because Saxe has put up 14 points in the fourth quarter in order to at least bring this back within a two-possession ball game. But I talked about James Fulbright. He was the one that I mentioned earlier, Zach Wolchuk, and I told you if he can get going, then this is a different Midway football team, and that's exactly what's happened.
He got going.
197 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground for James Fulbright. That tailback has gotten the job done. I believe, Eric, you talked about Nixon, the wide receiver, at one point in the pregame show. 3 receptions, 77 yards, 2 scores for Nixon on the outside as the Midway Panthers lead 42-28, and they've just played the really about as well as anybody has played against the Saxe Mustangs defense all year.
And defensively, they had an 80-yard pick six, so that's going to benefit you anytime you can turn that. And not only momentum-wise, plays like that are just backbreakers, but credit Saxe, they are fighting back into this thing. It looked all but done, 35-14. Midway was up and rolling, but this fourth quarter, Miles Nash has gotten into the party with a touchdown run, and Derrick Rose a 58-yard bomb to Chase Cromer. With 7 minutes to play, it's 42-28. Midway holding on to a lead over Saxe. But, yeah, I think you got a lot of credit deserved to that offense of Waco Midway because this had been a Saxe defense that had been one of the maybe one of the more underrated because we've seen some of these other schools in 6A, like the Duncanvilles and company, have so much success. But Saxe have been playing as well as anybody on the defensive side of the football.
But this is that time, though, where that loss to Hunter Spears, the Notre Dame commit on the defensive line that they lost a couple of weeks ago, this is the kind of game where you start really feeling the effects of that. And, Saxe, and you got to give credit to Waco Midway's defense as well because Derrick Rose, they've held him in check for the most part. He's only 6 for 12, 140 yards, touchdown, and a pick, and they were going to need Rose to have one of those, next level games, and he just hasn't really had that.
Well, we were talking about that Saxe defense, and I was kind of interested to look at the points that they've given up this season. Last week they gave up 25 against Plano East, but before that, a shutout against Rowlett, a shutout against South Garland. They did give up 38 points to a playoff team in Garland Lakeview Centennial, but 9 points against North Garland, 0 points against actual Garland. Garland Naaman Forest only put up a touchdown against Saxe, so that defense is about as real as can be.
No doubt. And that 25 points to East was against Brandon Mallory and that Panther bunch, and Brandon Mallory was the 6A area leader in passing, so that was no slouch of an offense.
No, by no means. So this is a good Saxe defense that has just basically been dismantled by that Midway overall team. And by the way, Coach Jeff Hume, the head coach for the Midway Panthers, former head coach at Mansfield High School, so he's back at his old stadium.
Nice.
For that one at Verda Newsom Stadium.
His comfort zone.
A little bit of a homecoming. He probably does. He's a Les Miles kind of guy. Yeah. Is it turf there?
Yeah,
it is definitely
Maybe
turf
it is
there.
turf. It is everywhere in Texas.
It is definitely turf there. Well, with that being said, that's going to be it for us looking at 6A Division I for now. We'll revisit some of the games, such as Midway and Saxe. Whenever that game goes final, then we'll also look one more time at the Saturday games during our final segment. But when we come back from a quick break, we'll go to 6A Division II. We'll look at Midland Lee versus Haltom. That game went final earlier. We'll also take a look at Longview and Prosper, a game tomorrow. Mesquite Horn and Wiley, a game that went final just a couple hours ago. When we come back here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Today at Whataburger, we're cooking the sweet and spicy bacon burger. The sweet and spicy bacon burger is my all-time favorite.
I love this burger. It's just perfect.
2 beef patties, 2 different types of cheese, caramelized onions. My favorite thing about this burger is the sweet and spicy pepper sauce and the bacon. You get it in every bite.
Nothing beats this.
The sweet and spicy bacon burger is an all-time favorite at Whataburger.
That's happiness.
Little ideas can turn into big dreams. Big dreams require careful planning and the right partner. A partner dedicated to helping you take care of your employees, protect your business, and plan for the future. It's sometimes overwhelming. It's often exciting. It's your story, and we can help. SWBC.
You want to bring the heat? Prove it. With carbs to help fuel muscles. And electrolytes to help replace what you lose in sweat. Studied, tested, proven. Nothing beats Gatorade.
On a Forbidden Fansville by Dr. Pepper.
Ramon, we can't.
But Julia,
We're rivals.
I can love you and still hate your overrated school.
We have 2 different defensive philosophies. You're a base 4-3 cover 2, and I'm an
aggressive 3-4 with press coverage. I get it, but we both love Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Ramon.
Touchdown, State!
Yes! In your face!
Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville.
Hey football fans, check this out. It's called Fan Tag, the easiest way to get video highlights from all of your games. As a parent, I know the value of capturing our kids' special moments on video. Fan Tag makes it easy to relive a memory or share it with family, friends, and recruiters. Download the Fan Tag app, and on game day, find your event and get instant highlights delivered right to your phone. So never miss a moment. Try Fan Tag today. It's free.
This is Academy Sports and Outdoors. We offer a huge sports and outdoors selection of top name brand gear like you've never seen. All at low prices like you've never seen. Because we're a sports and outdoor store like you've never seen. Visit us in store or at academy.com for the guaranteed lowest prices. Academy Sports and Outdoors, for all for less.
In a world where a young family embarks on an incredible journey, a son gets lost in an epic film. A father wills his team to victory, while a mother tries to talk to her daughter, who is posting online at a rate she has never seen until now. With high-speed Wi-Fi, free live TV and movies, there's something for everyone. Download the American app, and the best in entertainment travels with you.
Oh, the Lombardi Trophy's just upstairs from us here at Whataburger Friday Night Stars and the Star in Frisco. Glad you're with us as we look through the area round of the Texas high school football playoffs and an unbelievable week of high school football here on the week of Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had an incredible holiday. Kyle Yeoman, Zach Wolchuk, and Eric Chiafalo here for Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, like our page if you haven't already, and then also follow us on Twitter at Friday_stars.
Share, spread it around.
Share the show, please.
Share with your friends. People helping people, it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful, beautiful thing. But man, what a week it's already been for high school football. And a lot of these games that we're about to go through have already gone final, including Midland Lee and Haltom, J.J. Pierce Hebron, Arlington, and Amarillo Tascosa. Lots of games to get to. So let's get into it with 6A Division II Region 1. Let's start things off with Haltom and Midland Lee. This is a game we talked about earlier that really Haltom needed to get off to a quick start against a Midland Lee team that may be more experienced than Haltom in a postseason format. And this game kicks off tomorrow at 3 o'clock at Abilene Christian University. But the Haltom Buffaloes potentially the favorite in this football game, but also no slouch on that Midland Lee side of things.
Yeah, and we talked about how they had struggled in last week's playoff game, kind of got off to a slow start, rallied in that fourth quarter, and were able to come back and win a close football game. I mean, it's a good Arlington Bowie team, 47-41. But you know, we mentioned in the preview show about how Michael Black's been outstanding for Haltom, and this is a Haltom Buffalo team. 11-0, undefeated.
Magical season.
Magical season. Won a great district with Euless Trinity involved in there. Got a big win over them. Got a big win on the road against San Angelo Central. Good football teams. But this kind of success is a little new for Haltom. Whereas for Midland Lee, I mean, this is a team that right there with Odessa Permian, they're a proud, rich football tradition. They're accustomed to being in the playoffs. They're accustomed to making runs within the playoffs. So, you know, this is a Midland Elite team. They're not going to shy away from Haltom. And for Haltom, maybe they got that wake-up call last week. They got to feel like, okay, this is playoff football. We're here. We know what this is like. And even though Arlington Bowie came out and gave us a run for our money, we survived. Now we're refocused, and we can come back out and play Haltom Buffalo football with Michael Black, of course, leading the charge against a pretty good Midland Elite team.
Yeah, that Midland Lee team, a little bit underrated coming out of West Texas. That's a team that can sneak up on some people. They can run the football really well. And overall, that's a Rebels team that you got to look out for if you're Haltom. Now,
they scored 70 points last week.
Exactly. They can put up some points in a hurry.
You can't afford to fall behind like they did against Arlington Bowie.
No.
Against that Rebel offense.
By no means. And they almost didn't make it out of that game, really, without losing that one early because of how far they were behind. Let's go to Hebron and J.J. Pierce. J.J. Pierce, of course, the Cinderella, having defeated Cedar Hill last week, and the slipper doesn't fit because Hebron and the Hawks able to take down J.J. Pierce and in their Cinderella run. But what a game this was. Back and forth, and Hebron, at the end, able to pull away and make sure that they move on to the third round of the playoffs after almost not even making the playoffs out of District 6A rather, and they do get the job done against J.J. Pierce and company, and just an overall great game on the ground for the Hawks again.
Yeah, and it was really Carson Harris. Carson Harris had maybe his best game that he's had all year at quarterback for Hebron. 6 total touchdowns, over 200 yards on the ground, 4 scores on the ground. Also had 2 touchdowns through the year, both of which went to OU commit Trajan Bridges, one of the best wide receivers in the area. But I think for Hebron, this is a team they just lacked consistency. We knew all year long they had a lot of talent. They had the talent to maybe compete to win that district, a very competitive district over there. And to get that final spot, all they needed to do was get in, and they've really got a very favorable draw, in my opinion, especially once J.J. Pierce upset Cedar Hill last week. And I think it was their defense today that made the difference. Bo Brewer, we mentioned last week, if J.J. Pierce was going to have a chance to knock off Cedar Hill, it was going to be Bo Brewer, and he had a great game. Today, struggled. 9 of 23 through the air, under 40% completion percentage, had the interception, and in the fourth quarter, it was that Hawk defense. Diego Johnson with a pick 6. Next drive, William White, sack, fumble, returns it for a touchdown. Back-to-back defensive scores for that Hawk defense.
Now, Hawk defense standing strong and able to kind of distance themselves with J.J. Pierce. So they will face the winner of that Midland Lee and Haltom game that we ended up talking about, and we'll talk about that region a little bit more in depth here as you look at the score of the day, kind of giving a little bit of a spoiler alert. Arlington falls to Amarillo-Tascosa 35-24, and then we await Denton Guyer versus Mansfield-Lake Ridge. Let's go into that Arlington loss, though. Jahari Rogers and his magical season with the Colts and Coach Peach and company come to a close. And unfortunate fashion as Tascosa just kind of controlled this football game from the get-go, hopped out to an early lead, Eric.
Yeah, 21-point lead early on in the game, 21-0 before the second quarter even got going. And then Arlington sparked themselves. They got 17 points going there in the second quarter. But again, Tascosa just really dominated this game from the start. It's a shame because Jahari Rogers, Coach Peach, we love them. They've been putting up points all year. That Tascosa defense, I think, was a lot better than any one of us anticipated coming into the game today.
Yeah, and look, I'll tell you, anytime you get down 21-0, and I know Arlington, we made that mention, they're not going to start to get concerned if they fall behind early because of how good Jahari Rogers is.
Yep.
And you talk about it, he did it. He came on back. They scored 3 touchdowns in a very quick span, but it wasn't enough because Amarillo Tascosa, Joseph Plunk had an awesome game today on the ground, 3 touchdowns rushing, and that's really what it was. We knew that Amarillo coming into this one was going to be a run kind of first team. I just didn't know how explosive that they would be because Arlington's defense had been playing really, really well all year. They handed the Colts their first loss of the season, and it's unfortunate that that's the last game we'll see Jahari Rogers play in an Arlington Colt uniform, the Landry Award finalist. What an outstanding season for him and Coach Peach and really the entire Arlington Colt squad.
Yeah, just an unbelievably disappointing end to that season for what could have been something special for an undefeated Arlington team. And that's one of the things you look at from a team that hasn't been tested enough to be beaten in the regular season. Will it be enough to knock them off early in a playoff run if they haven't been tested? However, Arlington made it through a very tough district along the way. So just a disappointing game and an into a season a little bit too early for the Arlington Colts. Now, let's look at this matchup. This is your favorite matchup of the day, Mr. Zach Wolchuk, or the weekend, I should say. Tomorrow's game between Denton Guyer and Mansfield-Lake Ridge, the Eagles versus the Wildcats in a wild football game. This could be, as both teams have the stout offenses. Both teams can play a little bit of defense as well, but there should be a lot of points involved.
Yeah, and this is a game with two teams that have some familiarity, having not been in the same classification until this year at 6A, with Lake Ridge moving up from 5A to 6A. But they had played the previous 2 seasons. They did a home-and-home, non-district schedule. Now they're meeting third straight year in the playoffs in the area around Chandler Rogers and Lake Ridge. They went ahead and won a share of District 7 6A, a.k.a. the District of Doom. They've been great. Chandler Rogers has been arguably, you could make a case for him being one of the best players, if not the best player in the area. He's got 2,735 total yards and 29 total touchdowns, and he was huge in carrying this team to a win over Lake Highlands last week with 5 total touchdowns. On the other side, you've also got a dual-threat quarterback in Eli Stowers, and the sophomore, under the bright lights of a Texas high school football playoff game, coming off of 2 losses to end the season, played his best performance against a really good Flower Mound team on the road. This is a Guyer team with the sophomore quarterback, with a junior quarterback in Cadrick Cobbs. I think a lot of people were wondering how would they respond against Flower Mound, and they came out and put together their best offensive performance of the year in a 52-21 game. I think what's more important about this one for Guyer, because we know both teams can have success not only running the football, but with big plays down the field. But Lake Ridge's defense giving up 27 points per game, whereas Guyer has been one of the more dominant unsung units in 6A football, giving up just 18 points per game in the last 9. Even in those final 2 games of the regular season when Guyer struggled, that defense played well enough for them to win. It's really, if Eli Stowers performs, I think Guyer has a chance to make a serious run, and they should win this game tomorrow.
I'm with you 100%. I mean, it all comes down to the Guyer offense. We know Lake Ridge is going to show up and do what they do on both sides of the ball. We know Guyer is going to show up and play great defense. As you said, even the games they lost, when they lost to Byron Nelson, when they lose to Fossil Ridge, it's only because they only put up 21 points and 13 points in those individual games. So it's when the offense really struggles for them, their team struggles. They have a 6-5 record. I think when they're at their best, they are a much better than a 6-5 team. You saw it last week against a really, really good Flower Mound team. They put up 52 points.
Yeah.
So when this offense is going, they can be fantastic. It's just really they live or die by how good this offense can do, because when they lay eggs and have crappy games, I mean, they literally put up 13 points. They lose to Byron Nelson.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of difference you can have. Or you can put up 52 and beat a Flower Mound team that was just absolutely rolling into the playoffs. So how is that Geyer offense going to perform? The young quarterback, Eli Stowers, you feel good because last week he was unbelievable.
Yeah.
But they've been a little upsy-downsy all season.
Hit or miss. And you can't afford to miss anything against that Mansfield Lake Ridge team, or else they will make you pay no matter what. And that's really going to be the key to the game tomorrow. Let's go down to 6A Division II, Region 2, and start things off with Longview versus Prosper. This being played just across the hallway at the Ford Center here at the Star in Frisco. And one of the things about this show this Thanksgiving week is a lot of our games are previews in the overtime show when we're used to going into finals. Well, this is a preview I am excited to talk about, and we've got Brian Sutcliffe on the line, the voice of the Prosper Eagles. And Prosper's got a tall task ahead of them, Brian, with that Longview Lobos team coming out of East Texas, 11-0 on the season out of District 11 6A. But Prosper, on the other hand, a very confident program who can put up some points on their side, looking to make the upset.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me on again. Yeah, it's going to be quite a matchup there where you guys are. We'll be there about 24 hours from now. Should be a really interesting game. You know, Prosper defensively is pretty healthy for the first time in a while, and they're going to need to be. They're taking on a Longview squad that's averaging 53 points per game. They average over 520 yards per contest. And when you go and watch some of the video on these guys, it can be a pretty scary proposition just to watch some of the big plays that these guys have. Quarterback Haynes King's having a fantastic season, 32 touchdowns against 1 interception. They got 3 tailbacks that have run for over 500 yards this season. They've got a really talented receiver in Camden Perry. He's got 16 touchdowns on the season and over 1,300 yards. So it's a squad that's got so many ways that can hurt you. But from Prosper's perspective, the second half of the season, they really dealt with a lot of injuries, especially at the linebacking core, and they're really at full strength for the first time in a while over the last couple of weeks. So it should be really interesting to see if Prosper's speed, which I think they consider one of their strengths. They're not the biggest guys in the world defensively, but it's a team that tries to throw a lot of heart and speed at you. And they're going to need a lot of that speed tomorrow to take on one of the most potent offenses in the state.
When you talk about Longview's offense, and they're incredible, but their defense is they're giving up less than 18 points per game. We know that Prosper offense with Wayne Anderson, Keegan Shoemaker, and Justin Clark, and these guys, they can really put up points with the best of them. How confident are they? You mentioned the speed being a factor. How confident are they, and how confident are you in this offense that they can go out there and put up much more than the 18 points that Longview gives up each game?
Yeah, I think the team is pretty confident in what they're going to be able to roll out there tomorrow. They feel great about what they've got at offensive line. Hayden Metcalf is a guy in the receiving core that's really stepped up, especially the second half of the season. He's been a guy that you look at Justin Clark, who puts up large numbers. He got 12 receiving touchdowns this year. But I think any good offense has got to have multiple receivers that you can expect to step up and make a big catch. And that's something that Hayden Metcalf has done all season long. And as Metcalf is able to step up into that sort of co-number one wide receiver role, it makes Prosper a much more potent offense, and it allows Prosper to do more things offensively. It takes some of that pressure out of that box to against teams that really want to try to stack the line against Wayne Anderson. And I think if Prosper is going to be successful tomorrow, I think you're going to see Wayne Anderson doing some damage through the air. And Wayne has been one of the more talented multi-purpose backs in the area this season. They like to flex him out. They can get the ball to him in space. And Longview's got a mean pass rush. Their front four is really solid, and they're going to want to get up the field. And that's where I think you could expect to see Prosper to try to mix in some of that screen game, try to get the ball to Anderson outside. I think Prosper feels they've got the speed to match up against the Longview Lobos. It's, can you hold serve? And I think this is going to be a game where Longview's going to get some points. The question is going to be, is Prosper going to be able to keep up with them? And when you look at the personnel that Prosper's going to roll out there, they've been pretty consistent all season long. One of the things that they really looked at as we headed into the first playoff week last year was, can Prosper keep that foot down in the second half? They've been really good in the first half of games offensively this year. Now, many times they didn't have to do a lot in the second half because they had large halftime leads. Well, Naaman Forest pushed them last week, and that was the Naaman Forest team that Prosper handled pretty easily in the first round. And there were some different guys from a personnel perspective for Naaman Forest, and that was a ball game into the fourth quarter. And Prosper, great closing push, scored 20 points in the fourth to end up winning that thing going away. So if Prosper is able to be as efficient as they were, especially late last week, they think they can go up and down the field a little bit. And I think they're going to need to against a Lobo team that, if you're able to hold them to 28 to 30 points, you've done a pretty dang good job defensively. So can you get to 30? And Prosper certainly has the horses and manpower to do it. It's just going to be really interesting to see how they're able to use that personnel and get guys into advantageous matchups to do some damage to those Lobos.
Brian, you're one of the best, man. I mean, listening to this breakdown, the amount of information and knowledge that you're dropping on us, I couldn't appreciate it more. I agree with you 100%, and I think Prosper should feel confident with their offense. I'm intrigued by who's a player that you've seen, or it could be more than one, but on this Prosper defense, if they're going to have the ability to maybe make a game-changing play here or there to get a stop against the Lobo offense, which is probably what it's going to take to win this football game, who do you think there's a name for our viewers to be on the lookout for on that Prosper defense?
Yeah, look out for one of the safeties. His name is Logan Nelson, and he's the free safety, and he's been a guy this year that when Prosper's needed a big takeaway, has been the guy that stepped up. He's got a handful of interceptions this year, and Prosper feels really good at all three levels of the defense. There's a handful of guys that you could talk about. Aiden Ciano's a stud linebacker, inside linebacker. Cody Gallegos is a guy that had his second scoop and score, a second defensive touchdown of the season last week. So he's a guy that can do some damage as well. But I think, Haynes King's a guy that likes to throw it around a little bit. They don't throw it a whole lot, but when they do, they're typically extremely effective. And if Prosper's going to win, I think you're going to see a guy like Logan Nelson step up and make another big play, force a big turnover, maybe create a very short field that puts that offense in a great position to get points on the board. And, that's the guy that I think you'd circle as a player that you could expect to step up and make a big play tomorrow.
Brian Sutcliffe, the voice of the Prosper Eagles, breaking down Longview versus Prosper. Sure to be a great football game. Sure to be a lot of green at the Star in Frisco. Kickoff at 7 o'clock tomorrow night. And Brian, thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon, man.
Hey, thank you, boys. Have a good one.
There he goes, Brian Sutcliffe. And like you said, Zach, just the knowledge being dropped is just absolutely incredible from beginning to end on that segment, because he's all over the place. He knows it all, and he can get there really immediately, and he knows that preparation that's involved with what has to go into these football games and what's really going on. So if you get a chance, follow him on Twitter. He is at BNSAG, so BNSAG on Twitter. That's Brian Sutcliffe, the voice of the Prosper Eagles. Prosper and Longview and the Lobos play at the Star tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Should be a fun one to look out for. Let's look at Wiley and Mesquite Horn, though. This is a game that happened earlier this afternoon, and Mesquite Horn 0-7 to start the year.
Incredible.
And how about this run? They're now 3 rounds deep into the playoffs with a big-time win over the Wiley Pirates. 49-31, the final score, almost 600 yards of total offense. What has been the difference for the Jags?
I got 2 words for you. Jermaine Givens.
There you go.
Okay, it's his play that's been the difference.
Yeah, I know.
It's not like he just showed up randomly.
No, but he was struggling. Jermaine
Givens
Givens of last year is what we're getting now. I don't know what happened the first 7 weeks of the season, but ever since then, they've been dominant. He's been a key reason why. He was incredible last week. This week, 330 yards through the air, 153 on the ground, 4 total touchdowns. This dude is playing absolutely lights out. It's what we expect. This is the kind of play we expected from him and really from the entire Mesquite Horn team coming into the season. And it took a while to get going. They finally did. They luck out. They only need to win 3 games to get to the playoffs. They get in. They're rolling. They're hot as can be. And you do not want to face this team right now.
No, it's crazy. I mean, it really is crazy.
Unbelievable.
The difference 4 weeks makes. I mean, a month ago, Mesquite Horn's winless on the year. They're sitting there at 0-7. And Jermaine Givens has completely flipped the script. This offense is firing at all cylinders. Isaiah Taylor also on the ground, had a pair of touchdowns tonight. They're doing it in a multitude of different ways. And credit their offense, because Wiley's defense was no slouch coming into the game. Now, Wiley has been a little bit of Jekyll and Hyde somewhat. They've been a much better home team than they've been a road team this year, but they've got some offensive firepower with Rashad Dixon, who had a solid game, especially on the ground, 3 rushing touchdowns, and Donovan Ollie, who's one of the premier receivers in the area, 8 catches, 132 yards, and a touchdown. So the big dogs on the Wiley offense, Dixon and Ollie, they still ate, but Mesquite Horn, offensively, Wiley had no answer.
Yeah, Wiley had no answer, and neither is anybody in the playoffs so far for Mesquite Horn. They'll play the winner of Cypress Ranch and Westfield. That game taking place tomorrow at 2. We're going to take a quick break here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Plenty more to get to in hour number 2, including right off the top, guess what?
My alma mater?
No.
Dang it.
South Oak Cliff gets the win over Frisco. We've got Jason Todd, the head coach of the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears, in studio.
The old ball coach, eh?
The old ball coach will join us after the break here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars.
Nothing works up my thirst for an ice-cold Pepsi Cola like getting buckets. Whether I'm breaking ankles or breaking hearts.
Hey, Drew.
It always brings the refreshment, and I've been drinking it a long time.
Drew, how old are you anyway, man?
Doesn't matter. Uncle Drew, in theaters, June 29th. The future tastes good.
Hey football fans, check this out. It's called FanTag, the easiest way to get video highlights from all of your games. As a parent, I know the value of capturing our kids' special moments on video. FanTag makes it easy to relive a memory or share it with family, friends, and recruiters. Download the FanTag app, and on game day, find your event and get instant highlights delivered right to your phone. So never miss a moment. Try FanTag today. It's free.
This is Academy Sports and Outdoors. We offer a huge sports and outdoors selection of top name brand gear like you've never seen. All at low prices like you've never seen. Because we're a sports and outdoor store like you've never seen. Visit us in store or at academy.com for the guaranteed lowest prices. Academy Sports and Outdoors, for all for less.
Little ideas can turn into big dreams. Big dreams require careful planning and the right partner. A partner dedicated to helping you take care of your employees, protect your business, and plan for the future. It's sometimes overwhelming. It's often exciting. It's your story, and we can help. SWBC.
Today at Whataburger, we're cooking the sweet and spicy bacon burger.
The sweet and spicy bacon burger is my all-time favorite.
I love this burger. It's just perfect.
2 beef patties, 2 different types of cheese, caramelized onions. My favorite thing about this burger is the sweet and spicy pepper sauce and the bacon. You get it in every bite.
Nothing beats this.
The sweet and spicy bacon burger is an all-time favorite at Whataburger.
That's happiness.
You want to bring the heat? Prove it. With carbs to help fuel muscles. And electrolytes to help replace what you lose in sweat. Studied, tested, proven. Nothing beats Gatorade.
On a forbidden Fansville by Dr. Pepper.
Ramon, we can't.
But Julia,
We're rivals.
I can love you and still hate your overrated school.
We have 2 different defensive philosophies. You're a base 4-3 cover 2, and I'm an
aggressive 3-4 with press coverage. I get it, but we both love Dr. Pepper.
Oh, Ramon.
Touchdown, State! Yes! Into your face!
Dr. Pepper, the official drink of Fansville.
A look just outside our studios here at the Star Walk in the Star in Frisco. A bunch of classic Cowboys uniforms along with Super Bowl moments throughout the entirety of the Cowboys organization. That's just outside. Eric Giafalo fired up for this one. Zach Wolchuk,
the Star Walk.
Oh, wow.
Like around, baby. Let's go.
Everybody's fired up. Coach Todd taking a little bit longer than we thought. He is on his way.
Really poor tease by Kyle.
We
apologize.
I keep talking about how I know. I was a little
He'll be
excited.
here eventually, Sock fans. So stay tuned.
He will be here in just a little bit. But with that being said, I keep talking about how the Ford Center is just across the hallway. I guess compared to the other stadiums around the North Texas area, it's across the hallway. It's still a little bit of a trek to get from the Ford Center to our studios. It's a big place up here at the Star in Frisco. But until Coach Todd is able to get into the studio, no, he's being escorted. But I got a text from Chance,
the police escort,
and he said it might be a little bit. Coach Todd is a man of the people.
Respect.
Likes to talk through it, especially after their big win, like they were able to get over the Frisco Raccoons. But until Coach Todd gets here, let's go through 5A Division I, Region 1, and take a look at these games. A lot of these games already final throughout the area. But we'll start things off with Birdville and Abilene Cooper. We talked about this game in the pregame show, but Birdville with a big-time win over Abilene Cooper, 49-14, and this one wasn't really close, guys.
No, man. Birdville got out to a 28-0 halftime lead. They were dominant from the start, and it really comes down to, Birdville, very solid defense, but you got to show love to the guys that have been doing it all season. The juniors, which is great news for Birdville, their 2 best players, quarterback Stone Earl and running back Ladarius Mixon. They are absolutely best friends, and they are dominant together on the field. Stone Earl went for 230 yards through the air, 3 touchdown passes. Ladarius Mixon over 200 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, almost 8 yards a carry. These guys have been doing it all season. Today was no different. This one was pretty much over by halftime. Birdville, fantastic season they're having now, and a lot of that credit goes to Stone Earl and Ladarius Mixon, the 2 juniors. Man, how fun is it going to be to have those guys back here next year? And Birdville's on sort of a magical run right now.
They really are. They've had one of the best offenses in 5A in the area all season long, and they had a chance, undefeated, a chance to win the district title against Denton Ryan. The way that this region's going, if they come out of it, they've got a date with Denton Ryan a couple of rounds later in the playoffs. So a possible revenge game looming down the road for Birdville, and they look well on their way. This Hawks team is a juggernaut. They squeaked out of their bye-district game, a game that I don't think was as close as the score would indicate. That's pretty much were in control throughout that game. It just came, it looked a lot closer, 29-27 victory, but they weren't really in jeopardy of losing. And today, they went ahead and put up a score. Hey, we've got no doubt, 49-14. They smacked an Abilene Cooper team that made a very good run a year ago. and has a lot of good talent on that team. So credit the offense, but also credit that Birdville defense to hold Cooper to just 14.
And Birdville, listen, almost 500 yards today. They're set for a matchup potentially with Grapevine next week in Sweetwater. The offense in that game would just be unbelievable.
That game has been official now.
Nice.
Grapevine does beat Amarillo Caprock. That game, the final score 47-28. As you see there on the graphic, we take an overall look here at 5A Division I Region 1. Azle falls to Lubbock Coronado. Lubbock Coronado, a very strong team. We talked about how close that game was. A field goal for Azle to win it at the end. Instead, it's blocked and returned for a touchdown. Lubbock Coronado excitingly gets into the third round of the playoffs. It gets all the way to the regional finals, or regional semifinals, rather, with the win. Then you've got Denton Ryan and El Paso Duval as well on their side of things. As we continue to look through this, let's look at that Denton Ryan game really quickly. El Paso Duval versus Denton Ryan, a game tomorrow at 1 p.m. That's going to be an unbelievable football game. In the Denton Ryan Raiders, of course, a team that's a favorite throughout that region. 4A or 4-5A Division I, I should say, for the undefeated Denton Ryan Raiders overall. And man, this should be a game where Denton Ryan should potentially take care of business here, Zach.
Yeah, I mean, if Denton Ryan were to drop this one, I would be pretty shocked. But let's stop the presses. This is a big deal here. We got South Oak Cliff coach and Coach Jason Todd. If you want to go and put the headphones on, we got the mic in front of you.
There it is. They're comfy. They look good, looking sharp, and the all white. Yeah. Oh my God! Actually, can I start things off? By the way, congratulations on the victory.
Thanks a lot.
I want to say you guys' uniforms. Holy smokes, they're incredible. The icy whites, the gold helmet with the reflection. How new is that? Did you get to choose that? Like, how did that go down? Because you guys look unbelievable.
Yeah, the helmets are actually new for this season. The uniforms are a year old.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, the helmets are new, though. Helmets are new.
Yeah, we blended it together.
Looks sharp.
I love them.
Sharp.
They look great. All right, Coach, give us your breakdown. Obviously, a big win over a good Frisco Raccoon team.
Yes.
What do you think? What are some of the things you did well? It seems like you got that run game going, especially at the end. The offensive line started to dominate. You start the game with the defensive score, and that defense has been leading the way all year.
Yeah, I think we did a lot of things well. As far as the run game, we were able to complete some big passes early in the game. The defense was solid in the beginning of the game. But it was the things like the blunders that we had on special teams. We were pinned inside the 5-yard line twice. So it's some things that we need to work on, going forward.
How confident are you? You mentioned your running game, which has been stellar, and it's been from the quarterback position as well.
Yes.
But how confident are you in the passing game if you get into one of those games? Looks like Aledo next week, a heck of a matchup. How confident are you in that passing game?
We're very confident that if we have to rely on it, that it'll come through for us also. It's what we've been working on all year. We just haven't been able to display it all year.
Gotcha.
But, it should be, ready to go for
But
next
it's
week.
run-first mentality for you guys. I mean, every game you're looking to establish that run and then throw off of that, correct?
Yes, exactly, because if you win the line of scrimmage, most times you win playoff games.
And great defense. You guys start the game out. I mean, how exciting was that? You guys start the game with a fumble return for a touchdown on the first play of the game. I mean, that just to get things going, we got fireworks.
Yeah, that was actually very big, momentum to start the game off. And, it's what our defense has been doing all year, So, we expect them to carry us. And we expect to make sure we put points on the board for them.
Well, Coach, we can finally talk about it because it's happening. It's the Aledo Bearcats coming up next week. And I know you guys have had some time. You knew that was looming.
Yes.
What are you thinking about this matchup and how you guys match up against the Bearcats next week?
It's a matchup where, you do have to pay respect to them, because those guys have been good for a long time. But like I tell the kids, we're not playing the legacy of Aledo. We're playing this team. So we're not going against Jonathan Gray, even though they still got a great back in Jace McClellan. Yeah, they got a great quarterback. We seen the O-line. We went and scouted them a couple of times.
Gotcha.
Great O-line up front. Good defensive end that's going to TCU. So we know about those guys. But our guys are not intimidated, and we're not intimidated as coaches about going up against them. It's whoever performs the best will win.
Absolutely. 16 points given up against Frisco tonight. It's the most that defense for you guys has given up since week 4 of the season.
Yes.
Is this a kind of a wake-up call maybe going into that Aledo game and maybe a chance for you guys to kind of reset and look forward to that and try and fix some things?
In a way it is, but in another way, when you go against these wing T type of offenses that you don't see every day, it's kind of some different angles that you end up, giving up, some different run lanes. But I think it was good for us going against Everman last week, going against Frisco this week, that, the kids, they can relate back to when we used to play Ennis a lot. So, you know, it was something we could relate to.
I want to go back to this past week, Thanksgiving week. Happy Thanksgiving, by the way. What is this week like in terms of preparation? How different is it? You know, the kids are out of school, and then obviously the big day on Thursday. How do you handle that week of preparation, and do you think it worked to your advantage, obviously, with the victory tonight?
Yes, we felt good about our preparation. The big thing is that the kids are not on a so-called structured schedule anymore.
Exactly.
So, you know, kids probably staying up all night, you know. We practice still in the late afternoon, you know, as far as that goes. So it was just kind of the same situation with just no school. You know, we went hard on Tuesday and Wednesday, kind of slacked off some on Monday, you know, do a lot of preparation as far as install things. And then on Thursday, we kind of just let the guys just kind of, you know,
walk through,
you know, get a little mental practice in, and then be ready to go on Friday.
Gotcha.
What's the favorite Thanksgiving side on the dinner plate right there for you, Coach?
I'm trying to watch my weight.
Thanksgiving was no time
There's one,
that,
you know, cheat day, right? We got to indulge on Thanksgiving.
I really like ham. Yeah, brown sugar ham.
There we go. Can't go wrong
Ham's
there.
an entree, though. Don't you need the side to be like the mashed potatoes or something?
Mac and cheese. Yeah, mac and cheese was good also.
Amen to that.
And the mashed potatoes were good also. I can't say all those things were on the plate.
You got to carve up before the big game, Coach. You know what I'm saying? And that worked to your advantage tonight. The energy is still there. Look, you can go 4 more quarters tonight.
No, I'd rather get ready for Aledo.
Yeah, there you go. What is a week of preparation like this for a team like Aledo? Where do you go from here?
For right now, getting ready for Aledo, it's going to be 100% focus. Like the kids, you know, they know of the history. You know, they've seen the TV show. You know, so they know it's a way for them to make a statement for themselves, for the South Oak Cliff School, and the community. So, you know, if you want to be a giant, sometimes you're going to have to slay a giant to get there.
Yeah, definitely so.
You know, it's not going to be easy.
Yeah, not going to be easy, but a big-time win tonight, 48-16, South Oak Cliff, and your Golden Bears moving on to the third round. Coach, good luck. Thank you for joining us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Coach.
Congratulations.
We're going to take a quick break here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. We'll be back in about 3 minutes from the Star in Frisco. More Texas high school football playoffs in just a moment.
Today at Whataburger, we're cooking the sweet and spicy bacon burger.
The sweet and spicy bacon burger is my all-time favorite.
I love this burger. It's just perfect.
2 beef patties, 2 different types of cheese, caramelized onions. My favorite thing about this burger is the sweet and spicy pepper sauce and the bacon. You get it in every bite.
Nothing beats this.
The sweet and spicy bacon burger is an all-time favorite at Whataburger.
That's happiness.
Little ideas can turn into big dreams. Big dreams require careful planning and the right partner. A partner dedicated to helping you take care of your employees, protect your business, and plan for the future. It's sometimes overwhelming. It's often exciting. It's your story, and we can help. SWBC.
Hey football fans, check this out. It's called FanTag, the easiest way to get video highlights from all of your games. As a parent, I know the value of capturing our kids' special moments on video. FanTag makes it easy to relive a memory or share it with family, friends, and recruiters. Download the FanTag app, and on game day, find your event and get instant highlights delivered right to your phone. So never miss a moment. Try FanTag today. It's free.
This is Academy Sports and Outdoors. We offer a huge sports and outdoors selection of top name brand gear like you've never seen. All at low prices like you've never seen. Because we're a sports and outdoor store like you've never seen. Visit us in store or at academy.com for the guaranteed lowest prices. Academy Sports and Outdoors, for all for less.
In a world where a young family embarks on an incredible journey, A son gets lost in an epic film. A father wills his team to victory, while a mother tries to talk to her daughter, who is posting online at a rate she has never seen until now. With high-speed Wi-Fi, free live TV and movies, there's something for everyone. Download the American app, and the best in entertainment travels with you.
About as hype as we can be throughout the Star in Frisco area round week of the Texas High School Football Playoffs. Glad you're with us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Special thank you to the South Oak Cliff Golden Bears and for head coach Jason Todd for joining us in studio. Awesome to have him as a part of the show, taking over Heckman's spot for just a moment. But
gosh, I wish we could have him every week.
I wish we could just stay there.
Can we just make that full-time trade?
Let's just make that trade. Have fun glamping, baby. Go do it forever.
Sock's going to be at such a coaching disadvantage next week when they got Heckma at the helm.
Heckma Harrison leading the Golden Bears.
Oh, my goodness.
That would be a disaster. Sorry, Heckma, but
I don't know if it'd be a disaster.
Well, it's not Coach Jason Todd. I can tell you that much.
It would be a downgrade.
It would be a big downgrade. Sorry, Heckma. I love you to death, but that is exactly what it would be. Now,
I was like, no, I could definitely stop McClellan. Right? I could stop him myself.
Yeah, I don't think so. Let's go through 5A Division I, Region 2, starting with Mansfield Timberview and Magnolia West. That's where we'll start things off. And we talk about this Mansfield Timberview team. We said, hey, they kind of ended the season on a high note with a big win over the Colony, 35-30, and then the 45-28 win over Magnolia West, a good Magnolia West team, I should add. And Timberview moving on to the third round of the 5A Division I playoffs in order to get things done, and they'll take on the winner of Highland Park and College Station, which we'll talk about in a moment. But first, hey, the Wolves get the thing done, 45-28, big-time win.
And it was really all on the ground. You know, you look through the air, only 6 of 10 for Jordan Davis, their quarterback, 60 yards, did have 2 passing touchdowns, but it was Stacy Sneed on the ground, 23 carries, 197 yards, a pair of scores. Monte Dawson got into the act as well. He was the big play threat on the ground. Stacy Sneed would loosen him up, and then here comes Monte Dawson with that breakaway speed. 9 carries, 151 yards, and a touchdown, averaging just under 17 yards a carry.
Incredible. And Stacy Sneed getting it done through the air. 5 catches, 93 yards and a touchdown, 20 yards a catch. That dude getting it done in both ways. Probably the MVP of the
Dawson
team.
the same way. I mean, that was it. It was their 2 backs out of the backfield that made the plays. Just an extension of the running game. Just get him the ball out in the flats and let him go ahead and make things happen down the field. This is a Timberview squad who, coming out of a very competitive district with Highland Park, with Lancaster, with Mansfield Legacy, I think a lot of teams kind of overlooked once they dropped those games to HP, to Lancaster. But like you said, against a good Magnolia West team, able to hold them to 28 points and get the victory.
But they lost bad to those teams. Like Lancaster put 49 on them. Highland Park put 42 on them. Those games weren't even close. But Timberview getting it done in the playoffs when it counts.
Yeah, and they might have a rematch with Highland Park this next week as we move on to talk about that matchup. A matchup of 2 defending state champions, Highland Park and the Scotties against the College Station Cougars on one side. And then, man, Highland Park defeated that Timberview team 42-7. So if you're looking at Highland Park right now, you look on the other side of the football, you see the defending state champions in College Station there, but you still got to be really confident right now if you're the Scots. You blew through that Timberview team earlier in the season. You get another chance at them if you get a win in this one. But first, you just got to take care of business here, right?
No doubt about it. And they've got a tough test with the College Station Cougars.
Yes, definitely. So we've got Miles Dunklin on the phone, the voice of the Highland Park Scots. And Miles, first off, thanks again for joining us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. This is a matchup that we are all excited about because you don't normally get 2 defending state champions in the same game, at least this early in the playoff season. But thanks to district realignment, we get just that, and it should be a lot of fun down in Waco.
Yeah, it should be a great one. Like you said, it's very rare to be able to see 2 state champions, but I'm trying to live up to the standard that my old buddy Brian Sutcliffe setting here on Friday Night Stars.
Goodness, he's
Brian taught me most of what I know about being a play-by-play guy. We've done many years of calling games together, and he's absolutely crushing it. But you're right, guys. This is an exciting, very exciting matchup. Rare to see 2 state champions, and Highland Park having to get a little bit out of their comfort level for the first time in a while, having to play on Saturday and having to actually travel out of Dallas for the first time in the last couple of years to play a playoff game.
Yeah, that's a great point, Miles. They didn't have to travel out of Dallas in their back-to-back state championship run. What kind of change do you think that had maybe on the format, the Saturday game, the week of practice leading up to it, and the travel schedule?
Well, I know that Randy Allen is definitely a creature of habit and definitely has these guys on his schedule, talking with Chandler Morris and Finn Corwin and a couple of those guys after last week. They were definitely hoping for a Friday game, but you know, Zach, they've certainly been able to make Saturdays work as well with back-to-back state championship runs, and they have a lot of guys that have been there and done it, and some guys that will be going on to play on Saturdays. So I think they should be just pretty comfortable no matter what the setting is.
Miles, we've talked a lot about this Highland Park team all year long. We haven't talked too much about this College Station Cougars team. What is the number one thing? What do they do best? What's the thing that's going to be scaring Highland Park the most about College Station coming into this game?
You know, I'm not sure there's really one thing in particular about College Station that scares you, other than probably their track record. You look at the teams they've played the last couple years. They have some really big wins under their belt, including beating Aledo in the state championship game. You beat Aledo, you gain my respect. And they played some really good teams this year as well, had a good non-district schedule, played in one of the toughest schedules, toughest districts in the state. We'll see exactly how good that district is. It's Magnolia West, dropping one to Mansfield Timberview. That was kind of a shocker from my perspective. But I would tell you that special teams is probably the thing that scares the Scots the most. You look at number 16 for College Station, Brandon Joseph. He's committed to Texas Tech. He returned a long kick for a touchdown last week against Poteet. Also, number 4, both these guys are defensive players, but Ryan Stapp is the defensive coordinator's son, and he can score on special teams as well. The Scots are really trying to limit any big plays in the special teams game.
Miles, a lot has been made of this game because of the fact that it's two defending state champions and high-profile teams in College Station and Highland Park. But looking at Highland Park's schedule, especially in non-district where they played some really good teams in Rockwall and in Lone Star, and coming out of the district that they did, we just talked about some of the teams they played. Is this the toughest team that Highland Park has faced this year?
You know, that's a good question. I would say probably not by looking at how that district's performed. You go back and look at a team like Lone Star. Look at what Rockwall did to Allen.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. I heard those guys left with a standing ovation. You know, and I even believe that looking at Lancaster on film and then looking at College Station, they don't put the same kind of fear into you that the Lancaster Tigers did. In fact, College Station kind of reminds me a lot of Highland Park. They don't have tremendous athletes all over the field, but they're very well coached. They execute. Highland Park's going to have to play a really good game, but I think they've been well prepared. And the speed that they saw in their district and against teams like Rockwall and against teams like Lone Star, and certainly Lancaster and the Mansfield schools, I'm not sure College Station's going to have that same kind of speed that those teams previously on their schedule did.
Yeah, should be a whole lot of fun tomorrow down at Waco ISD Stadium. College Station, Highland Park. Chandler Morris with over 2,500 yards passing and 31 touchdowns. The voice of the Highland Park Scots, Miles Dunklin, joining us here on Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Miles, thanks so much. We'll talk to you again next week, buddy.
Thanks, boys.
There he goes. Miles Dunklin he'll be on the call tomorrow down in Waco. And, oh, man, that's a good football matchup. Let's take a look at the rest of that Region 2, though. 5A Division I Region 2. The other two games also tomorrow at 2 p.m. The one I have circled is that Lufkin-Frisco Lone Star game, also being played in Waco, just about 2 minutes away from where Waco ISD Stadium sits. That one will be at McLean Stadium on the campus of Baylor University down in Waco. So two very high-profile games, two games with potential state champions arising from those games, and then they're both just being played about 2 minutes apart from each other in that city in Central Texas. So overall, just an incredible weekend of football. But not to mention, Tyler in Lancaster is another great football game also to be played as well. So lots of good games unfolding in this Division I, Region 2, guys.
Yeah, it's a great region. I mean, fantastic region from top to bottom when you look at it. If we get ourselves any one of these, whether it's Frisco, Lone Star, and Lufkin, or Tyler John Tyler, which I think it'll be Tyler John Tyler over Lancaster, man, that's going to be an incredible game next week. And that's before you even get to these games tomorrow. I mean, tomorrow, 2 incredible games I'm really excited about. I mean, if you want to talk about this Tyler John Tyler game, I'm all in. I mean, there's 7 games. They're coming out on a 7-game win streak right now, playing great.
Yeah, they really are. And you look at that game, let's take an in-depth look at Tyler John Tyler and Lancaster. You talk about the winning streak from Tyler John Tyler, but that doesn't necessarily tell a story. That's another good Lancaster team on the other side of the football.
It is, and their 3 losses this year are to teams with a combined record of 22-6. So I mean, they've had a tough schedule. We just talked with Miles. I mean, they're in that same district as Highland Park. That's a heck of a district. A lot of speed there. They've played a lot of tough teams, and they've come out, with a 7-3 record during the season. So you can't be upset about it. They've played well, and they got a lot of good players. And it starts with running back Trey Bradford for them. Last week, 384 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns. Tomorrow, he's going to have another one of those games because, they have weapons galore for Lancaster, but the difference in this game is at the quarterback position. They put up 37 points a game, but I don't trust Rod Hudson III at quarterback as much as I do Devlin Woods at quarterback for Tyler John Tyler. And this is a guy only 5'8", 170 pounds, but put up 1,900 yards through the air. He's a senior, 21 touchdowns. He's got an incredible receiver going to Houston is Keandre Street, 6'2", 200, 28 yards per catch, 10 touchdowns this year. He's a big play guy, and they average 520 yards and 45 points in their last 3 games. They've been incredible. 270 rush yards a game this season. They got two-headed monster at running back. I think Tyler John Tyler wins this game mostly not just because they're a fantastic team, but I think they just have the quarterback advantage with Woods over Hudson III.
Yeah, I think they're a better team. And Lancaster's also been prone at times to turning the ball over, and I think that can make a difference. And we saw a track meet against Poteet a few weeks ago. Came down to that Hail Mary with John Tyler. I think Poteet's a better team than Lancaster. If they were to meet on the football field, I think Poteet would win that football game. So it's going to be close. Athletes galore. Yeah. But Tyler John Tyler, in my opinion, should get the victory as well.
Yeah, it's going to be an incredible football game back and forth. I don't know. I think if I had to choose this football game, I think I might pick Lancaster to win this game, even though there's a chance that, it's closer to Lancaster than it is to Tyler John Tyler, maybe a home crowd advantage just by a hair being played in Mesquite. But I just think there's a chance that Lancaster gets the job done here. Now, let's move on to 5A Division II Region 1. We'll start things off with your alma mater, Justin Northwest, in their game that they have coming up as well. And you look at this one, a big-time win for the Texans, 48-14 over El Paso Burgess. We looked at this score during the pregame show. That it was a 6 o'clock kickoff, I believe, so we got to see a little bit earlier. But the Texans take advantage and come away with a big-time win. They're on the way to their 3rd-round playoff game as well.
Yeah, they really just breezed through this one. Burgess didn't have a chance. They wanted to come into this game and be able to run the football. And at the end, you see 119 yards, but they needed more like 200. We saw early in that game, in the first quarter, they had negative yards rushing. They weren't able to do anything on offense, and we know about that Northwest Texan offense. They've been putting up video game numbers all year. Last week, Demarius Hosey ran for 350 yards and 5 touchdowns. They had 670 yards of offense last week. They turn around and go for 470 this week. I don't think they had to play the starters too much in the second half. It was just a dominant performance for Northwest, and it's good for them because we talked about it all year. I've been a little envious of the schedule in the district that they were able to play in, so I wasn't really sure. Are these numbers inflated because of the inferior competition? Granted, they haven't had to play 2 unbelievable teams in the first round of the playoffs here, but they've won convincingly both times, and to do that in the playoffs is never an easy feat. So Northwest offensively, fantastic. Can they keep it going? I hope they can.
Well, they've got a tough task coming up next week as we take a look at the bracket overall for Region 1 and 5A Division 2. They've got a tough task in Lubbock Cooper on the horizon, 45-0. Oh, by the way, Cooper won their first-round game 52-0.
So we got a good defense finally for this Justin Northwest offense to get tested by. Austin Ahmad has been one of the more underrated players in the area from Northwest. And this has been a Texan team. They've got to be making history with how many games they've won this year, now going 3 rounds deep into the playoffs. I don't know the last time the Just Northwest was in a regional semifinal game.
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea either. I know none of my teams ever had the luxury of going that far. I think we're usually...
Kudos to them, man. What a great year for them.
Yeah, 1 or 2 and done. To get to 3 is fantastic. You run into a good Lubbock Cooper team, but that's good, though. You want to be challenged. I mean, you don't want to just play a bunch of easy teams. When you get to the 3rd round of the playoffs, you're playing good teams.
Yeah. And look at how stacked that District 5 or District 3 5A was. Lubbock Cooper, Wichita Falls Rider, Canyon Randall, all in that district. I talked in the pregame show about how El Paso Parkland could have been a team that made a run. Canyon Randall just handed them their first loss of the season.
Jeez.
No, it's true. You look at Parkland.
Right.
Parkland hadn't lost this year.
Yeah.
They were 10-0-1, and they end up getting their first loss of the season to Canyon Randall. So 3 of the 4 teams in the finals, or semifinals, I should say, of that region are from the same district in District 3, 5A, Justin Northwest, the lone dog.
Yeah, and I do want to shout out for Justin Northwest, Quentin Lee at receiver. Had a huge game, 199 yards, 3 touchdowns on 12 catches. Dude was a boss. They got weapons galore. They got 4 guys with at least 500 yards receiving and 5 touchdowns. Last 2 weeks, Quentin Lee's been the guy.
Yeah.
For most of the season, it was Antonio Reese, but man, they got weapons galore.
Let's go to 5A Division II, Region 2. And we'll start things off with Aledo and Lovejoy. This is a game earlier that we had Luke Trujillo at, and this is a game in Bedford that was never really a game because Aledo got off to such a quick start. And Aledo, again, we talked about the matchup, and we'll talk about it here in just a moment again, but South Oak Cliff on the horizon in that Region 2 bracket. And man, it's going to be a lot of fun to see those 2 teams go up against each other. But right now, at least this week, the Bearcats still look dominant, 62-28. You can't really get much better than that. That's a good Lovejoy team, too, that can put up some points.
It is, and what they were able to do was just set into their game plan from start to finish. It was all about Chase McClellan, 308 yards, 4 touchdowns, the OU commit. JoJo Earl, one of the best sophomore receivers in the state. He's going to be a name to remember. 5 catches, 83 yards and a score. A very dynamic player. I think if they're to beat South Oak Cliff, as good as Chase McClellan is, and you just heard Coach Todd, he's the player that they know. I believe they're going to try and take him out of the football game. If they do, JoJo Earl, you get him the football in space against a very aggressive defense in South Oak Cliff that will over-pursue at times. Frisco caught them on a few big plays tonight. He's a guy, JoJo Earl, that can be the X factor for Aledo in that football game.
Yeah.
And Jake Bishop, a quarterback who just doesn't turn the football over. For Lovejoy, a great year overall. Carson Collins, a good game today. Bo Levinelli had one of the highlight reel catches of the day, finished with 9 catches, 154 yards and a score. You'll see his score in the corner of the end zone here. But Jason McClellan, man, this running back is on a different level.
Yes, he is.
300-some yards. I mean, the dude's going to OU. He's absolutely playing like he has all year. So, I mean, this rushing attack, 460 yards total on the ground, only gave up 73. That's a recipe for victory.
And their defense is good. They're opportunistic. They'll get pressure. It's going to be an outstanding matchup. Aledo and South Oak Cliff. Can that defense find a way to slow down Aledo, because nobody else has this year?
Well, let's look at South Oak Cliff. That defense special again today, as they were only able to give up 16 points against the wing T in the attack from the Frisco Raccoons. South Oak Cliff wins this one 48-16. We, of course, had Coach Jason Todd on just a couple moments ago, but let's look in depth at this game. And he kind of talked about it. You got to kind of get nitty-gritty. You got to roll up the sleeves and be a little blue-collar if you're going to make your way into the 3rd round of the playoffs in a region and in an area like this, as tough as it is. And South Oak Cliff was able to do so. 414 yards total. And this is a team that really prides themselves on the defensive side of the football, but despite giving up over 250 yards total, still able to blow Frisco out of the water.
Yeah, and it started on defense. Like we talked about with Coach Todd, getting a defensive scoop and score to start the game. And Sean Sims, yes, he did have an interception, but he had 2 passing touchdowns, 2 touchdowns on the ground, and you could tell that offensive line just wore down that Raccoon defense in the 4th quarter. They just ate clock. They moved the football at will.
Yeah, they moved the football at will, and they are moving into the 3rd round. Looking at the bottom side of that bracket, Frisco, Reedy, and Midlothian, the game that preceded this one at the Star in Frisco, got out to a quick start. Midlothian, of course, coming off of their big win last week over Red Oak, a good football team there. 42-13 was that final score, but man, Frisco Reedy looks like the team to beat inside that Region 2 bracket, the way that they've been able to play. How about how stacked this bracket is overall? And we'll look at that overall in a minute.
It's got 3 potential state champions.
It really does.
Frisco Reedy, Sauk, and of course the team in Aledo. I mean, that seems to always be there.
Yeah, but this game, really all Frisco Reedy. I had to combine the two words for a second. Freedy. No, it was all Frisco Reedy from the get-go. And once again, Foskey gets the job done.
Now. Foskey, baby!
Gets the job done.
Look at those dimes he's dropping in there for
5 touchdowns today for our boy Foskey. And that's just a really, really good Reedy team. A team like Midlothian who comes in and they're already one-dimensional offensively. That Reedy team's just going to suffocate you. And Reedy has played fantastic all season. They're just as good defensively as they are offensively, and they run the ball just as good as they throw the ball. I mean, they just really do everything well. And like I said, if you're going to come in and play Reedy and they already know all you can do is run the ball, they're going to shut that down and they're going to beat you quick. And that's exactly what happened today. Reedy, one of the toughest teams. There are going to be so many fun matchups now leading up to when we get to the big one.
Yeah, a lot of fun matchups to look at, and we got to credit Gavin Dunaway for these highlights. Did a great job from inside the Star in Frisco. He's also at Kennedale Paris, and he'll also be at South Lake DeSoto tomorrow. That was a dime.
He's unbelievable.
He's been able to really dial it up. And can I just make a quick PSA for everybody watching out there? If anybody knows Josh Foskey, can you guys let him know that we really enjoy watching him play football? And we like to say Foskey, because it's a lot of fun, and we enjoy doing it week in and week out. So we think he should join in on the fun, especially if he's having that much fun putting up 304 total passing yards, 52 points on a good Midlothian ball club.
I would love if Frisco Reedy's defense, every time they got an interception, instead of yelling out Oski, they yelled out Foskey.
Yeah, that'd be great.
You know, I think
that's how it started.
Just to pay an ode and a tribute to their quarterback. You know, hey, Foskey, we just got the pick. We're giving it back to our quarterback, and Foskey's going to go throw a dime for a touchdown.
And he usually does.
Yep.
Well, we've solved everything.
Put a bow on it, Reedy. Yep. Who are they going to play? That's the question. Let's talk about it. That is the big question.
Let's go. Burleson Centennial and Corsicana. This was a game that really we looked at as potentially being an incredible one, and it turned out to be just that. And Burleson Centennial gets the job done. This was a pick'em game. And did any of us pick Corsicana? I don't know if we did.
Not me.
I did not. I picked Burleson Centennial.
Okay, I think we all picked Burleson Centennial. So they end up beating Corsicana. This was a game earlier where Burleson Centennial controlled things, but Corsicana made a little bit of a comeback, but it fell short as the Spartans win it at home on the second round of the playoffs, which, like we talked about earlier, is a bit odd. But 28-20, the final score here, guys.
And it seems like 28's the magic number for Burleson Centennial when they're playing Corsicana. They win the first meeting 28-26.
Yep.
They get this one done 28-20. They scored 14 unanswered to go ahead and seal the victory in this one. And we knew coming in this was going to be a run-heavy team. Whoever it was on both sides of the football, they wanted to come in and they wanted to run it. And today for Burleson Centennial, they were the team that made the plays. They got the job done. You look at their rushing attack. Dejun Nathan.
Yeah, you got it.
108 yards and 2 scores, and he was outstanding in the team's first meeting as well. On the other side, for this Corsicana team, that was Dejun Nathan for Corsicana. For Burleson Centennial, it's a multitude of guys. They had 4 different players score the football from the running back position. They go ahead and will beat you. It's going to be on the ground, but they've got a variety of weapons that can do it. The question is, can that offense now keep up with the firepower that is Frisco Reedy? I highly doubt that.
Well, if you come into a game, we just talked about it with Frisco Reedy, if you come into the game one-dimensional, like Burleson Centennial somewhat is offensively, they like to run the ball.
They were 3 of 5 with an interception.
With an interception, yeah 14 yards passing. I mean, these guys aren't doing it through the air. Reedy's going to be able to capitalize on that. If you can't throw the ball at all, you're in trouble. You just saw it with Midlothian. You're probably going to see it next week.
Well, let's look at that region as a whole. Region 2 inside 5A Division 2, and we talked about being stacked. The 4 teams that we expected to move on tonight all moved on. Aledo, South Oak Cliff, probably a matchup that everyone should have circled on their calendar. Not probably,
I'm telling you, winner of that game wins the state championship.
I don't disagree with you, honestly. No love for Reedy. Reedy on the other side can get the job done as well.
I think Reedy has a chance against South Oak Cliff. I don't know that they have a chance against Aledo.
I think whoever wins this region will win the state championship. No doubt in my mind.
I think that's 100%.
No doubt in my mind, because I think Reedy has a legitimate shot to knock off both Aledo or South Oak Cliff if they play in that final of the regional. But whoever makes it out of this alive is just going to be really kind of, I wouldn't say cruising, and there's no such thing as that in the playoffs, but they're going to have a good shot at winning the state championship after coming out of such a strong region like this one. Let's go to 4A. 4A Division 1, Region 1 is where we'll look at here at the 4A ranks, and this is the overall look at things. Big Springs gets just trounced by Hereford 57-13. Canyon takes care of Seminole 35-21. Decatur with a big-time win. We've given not a whole lot of love to that Decatur Eagles squad.
I'm sorry, Decatur. Big win.
We've got to have them on the schedule next week because they are in the third round of the playoffs, and they'll either play Hershey or Lakeview. That game being played tomorrow at 2 p.m. But how about the Decatur Eagles? Big-time win over Andrews. Andrews actually led that ball game early, and then Decatur shut things down. I think they ended up scoring about 20 unanswered on Andrews in order to get the dub. So Decatur, big-time win as they move on to the third round there. Let's go to Region 2, where we'll see much of our highlighted matchups throughout this week of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Region 2, absolutely stacked at the 4A Division 1 level. If we can get that graphic up here in just a moment. We got Waco La Vega just dismantling Melissa up at the top. Paris moves on over Kennedale.
I knew it. Curvin had nothing for Paris.
Win. You were the only one to pick Paris as well.
Yeah,
so congratulations there.
Thanks, boys.
Argyle over China Springs 52-14 as the Cougs go down there. And we talked about that Salina game earlier. So let's go look at that Melissa Waco La Vega game 68-21. Waco La Vega, a legitimate state championship contender, especially when they can run the football as efficiently as they did against the Melissa Cardinals team, guys.
Yeah, and Jarkay Walton was unreal. 175 yards and 4 touchdowns for Waco La Vega. This is a La Vega team year in and year out. They're a perennial contender. They've got a lot of good teams they've defeated, and this was a Melissa team, no slouch, coming out of a very good district with Argyle, Salina, that Paris squad. They'd been battle-tested through district play, but to really get held and shut out in that first quarter by that La Vega offense, an outstanding job by Waco La Vega to turn the ball over.
They were shut out in the entire first half.
Yes, yeah, I mean, to go into the first half scoreless for that Melissa team that has some weapons in Brandon Lewis and Kennedy Lewis, who finally connected on a pair of second half touchdowns of 54 and 71 yards respectively. But man, they shut down Kennedy Lewis, the TCU commit, in the second half of this. In the first half, he only was able to get involved in the second half. It's too little, too late. Waco La Vega, watch out, boys. This team's legit.
Man, they can run the football. I mean, look how many teams we've seen now that are just run-first dominant teams, and Waco La Vega is no different. 548 yards on the ground. When you only need 53 yards to win a game through the air, that's pretty impressive stuff.
And they had 195 yards rushing in the first quarter. That is crazy.
It's impressive. I mean, that's every play. You're getting gashed yards just off the snap, basically, on the ground. Now you look at Kennedale and Paris. They'll face Paris after they get a big-time win. And you talk about a team that didn't need a whole lot of passing to get the job done. How about looking at that passing stat from the Paris side of things? -4 yards passing. It doesn't matter. 108. 180 yards on the ground, and they get the 35 points. 3 turnovers help that out a lot.
Yeah, no doubt. 3 turnovers and 2 of them returned for touchdowns. That's the difference in the football game. Yeah, and
I foresaw it.
You foresaw the Paris defense, which you didn't even mention in your entire preview.
I think I said their defense. I think I was talking about.
Oh, you said their defense. Their defense and their turnovers. Anyway, my guy DJ Curvin was held in check, and to that I tip my cap to the Paris defense, because my goodness, to hold DJ Curvin without 85 yards, that is an unbelievable feat. Coming into it, I thought DJ Curvin was going to be the difference maker. This is a really good Kennedale team, and quite frankly, Paris had kind of underwhelmed against the better competition that they'd played all year. This is a big win for them, but I think they're going to get they have a tough draw next week with that Waco La Vega squad, man.
Yeah, Waco La Vega and Argyle may be on a collision course. We'll look at that Argyle game. China Spring on the other side of that football game, and it did not go well for the Cougars as China Spring loses this one 52-14. They did put up some yardage against Argyle, which was pretty impressive, but 4 turnovers, a lot of those happening deep into Argyle territory. That was really the difference that kind of helped the Eagles pull away here.
Yeah, and this one was 52-0 in the fourth quarter. So you want to look at the yardage total. I think that's probably a little skewed because
it is.
A couple of touchdowns late,
no doubt,
by China Springs to go ahead and give them a little bit better looking stats there. But this is an Argyle team. We have mentioned them as far as some of the elite in high school football, and they deserve to be up there with the creme de la creme of the high school football world. Bo Hogaboom, efficient day, 14 of 21, 169 yards, a pair of touchdowns. Tito Bice on the ground provides the balance, 17 carries, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then Dylan Carter. Every single week, he's like the Adam Thielen of Texas high school football. You can bet he's probably going to have close to 100 yards, if not 100, and a touchdown. 96 yards and a touchdown tonight. That tandem of Hogaboom and Carter has not been stopped all year long. When you sprinkle in one of the best offensive lines in the state and Tito Bice, not to mention a defense that shut out a pretty darn good China Springs offense for 3 quarters, Argyle looks like they will not be stopped.
Yeah, and they can actually throw the ball, unlike some of these other teams that they're about to play.
And that's
against.
a great point because all of a sudden, if they get up by multiple scores, those run teams, granted Waco La Vega, they're racking off huge chunks. When you're playing against an Argyle defense that's pretty darn good and gets completely overlooked because of how explosive that offense is, good luck coming back against a team like that.
Yeah, good luck indeed, and they're going to have to face up against Salina, a district foe, next week after the Bobcats get the job done 31-21 against Stephenville. Good win for Salina, but now they've got to face a team that just absolutely dismantled them in the final week of the regular season, guys.
Yeah, it wasn't really close for Salina. They took on Argyle, and it was a 63-21 win. So we know Salina's best player, Logan Point, had 105 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. He played very, very well. They took control of this game in the second half. Their defensive line was outstanding against Stephenville, racking up 6 different sacks, and their offense then went on to hold the ball for 15 minutes in the second half. So they just really took the air out the football, literally controlled, dominated, kept Stephenville off the field, and they had a well-rested, ready to rip-roar defensive line against that Stephenville offense.
So let's look at 4A Division I Region 2 as a whole here. Now, I looked at it a minute ago, but I do want to look at it again because you've got Waco La Vega and Paris playing in that matchup, and then you've got Argyle Salina rematch from earlier in the season. So whoever makes it out of this district, like we talked about with really the 5A Division II looks in Region 2, this is a district that, or a region, I should say. If you make it out of that, you could win a state championship here, guys.
Absolutely. I mean, Argyle's no question the favorite. I would love to see them play against that La Vega team just because I think that's probably in this region, probably the team that can give them most of a tougher game, I would think, more of a competitive game when you think about the rushing attack they bring to the table. So, but Argyle, I mean, more than likely is going to run away with this thing.
Yeah. You think the same thing, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, I picked Argyle to win the state championship, but I would be very enticed with that La Vega game. And Salina always steps up and plays well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I just don't think they have the firepower to compete with an Argyle.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Now, with that being said, 4A Division I, we'll go back through this here in just a moment, but with about 15 minutes left here in Friday Night Stars overtime, let's go back up to the top, 6A Division I. We're going to run through some of the brackets as we get set to kind of get ourselves ready for next week, quote-unquote number 14, but it's the regional semifinals next week. Trying to make a championship run. You're looking at me weird. What am I?
No, you're fine.
What did I
keep setting this up? No, you're good. You're good. Don't get worried.
Did I say something wrong?
No, you did not.
You're giving them that look.
You said things beautifully. I'm excited to go through these brackets.
Well, let's look through them. 6A Division I, as we looked at this earlier, but Region 1, of course, Trinity moving on. South Lake Carroll, DeSoto tomorrow at McLean Stadium, or not at McLean Stadium, that one also up here in the Dallas area. Then you've got Odessa Permian losing to Arlington Lamar, and then Duncanville Louisville. Guys, what stands out of this bracket to you guys?
Well, I can't wait for that South Lake Carroll matchup tomorrow. I love the fact that we have this whole region is basically just filled with our area teams here, so that you get a North Texas feel through and through this region right here. And then also when you look ahead to whoever wins that Louisville and Duncanville game, pairing that up against that Arlington Lamar offense that put up 49 points tonight, seemed to put up almost 50 points with Jack Dawson and company. I mean, they do that almost every week. So when you pair that against a Louisville defense, which is really, really good, or a Duncanville defense that is number one in the area, regardless of classification, that is extremely intriguing when you look ahead to next week.
And it's a great contrast in styles. When you look at Duncanville and Louisville, obviously they're great defenses. You said it, whoever moves on to play against Lamar, which has been a great offense throughout the year, one of the area's best. And then for Trinity, a run-heavy team. You know what Trinity is year in and year out, but it always seems to work. The Trojans, if they've got the ability to run their style, they're going to make a deep run and to play against the winner of that DeSoto South Lake Carroll team. Both very balanced offensive attacks, especially South Lake Carroll, and an underrated Carroll defense. That will be an outstanding matchup in the high-profile teams. I mean, you've got some loaded juggernauts in this region that year in and year out, they're an easy pick to win a state title.
And one more thing on Trinity. I mean, we talked about it coming into after this game. Brandon Theus only had a couple of carries in this last game. We're not sure if he's banged up. If they don't have him going into the next round, that's going to be trouble. A.J. Burnett stepped up today and played fantastic, but Theus has been their workhorse all season long. He's been their best back. That's what they do best. And if they don't have Theus against Carroll or DeSoto, you would imagine that's a huge chink in their armor going into that game.
Big time.
Yeah, it could be a huge chink in the armor. If Trinity's healthy, though, a matchup with either one of those teams could be a very good football game running the football. Imagine T.J. McDaniels versus that Trinity team. That should be a lot of fun.
A lot
to
of
watch.
yards on the ground, no
You're
doubt.
exactly right. Back and forth. Let's go down to Region 2, Division 1 here in the 6A ranks. Of course, Allen in a shootout against Rockwall earlier, 52-40. We talked about that one in depth. The Woodlands, talk about a shootout, over 100 points put up on the board. Of the Woodlands defeat Cedar Ridge, a team that was winning that game earlier, and then Saxe falls to Waco Midway, 56-28. And tomorrow you've got Klein Oak and Round Rock, another good game to see who faces Waco Midway in that third round. But Allen and the Woodlands coming up next week, and you talk about two teams from different areas, but with that perennial powerhouse feel. That's going to be a fun one next week.
Last team to beat Allen, the Woodlands, in the 2016 state semifinal.
Ooh, that's a nugget right there.
It is a nugget.
Tasty one. And I think the whole region,
extra crispy,
all had a collective sigh of relief when they saw that Rockwall at least put up, a game, made that game competitive against Allen tonight. And because if Rockwall got smoked in that game, I think everybody's thinking Allen runs away with it. Now you see, okay, Allen, there's some things you can do. You can do some things against him. You can put up 40 points if you're doing some things correctly. So I think that, a lot of talent across the board here. But, yeah, when you look ahead and you see that Allen game with the Woodlands next week, you can't help but get excited.
Especially with the Woodlands' ability to also score points. I mean, they put up 53 in that win over Cedar Ridge. So that is going to be quite the matchup. And then you look ahead, Waco Midway, big win over a good Saxe defense. Put up 56 points over that Saxe D. Whoever comes out of that Klein Oak Round Rock game, they've got their work cut out for them because Waco Midway, they seem like they're peaking at the right time.
Yeah, they really are. And that's a defense that is standing strong. And Saxe put up 28 points against the defense, which honestly I thought might have been a little bit more than I expected, at least in that football game. But the Midway offense was able to hold up their end of the bargain more than I thought they would as well. Now moving on to 6A Division II Region 1. We looked up at the top, previewed that Midland Lee Haltom game. That's tomorrow afternoon. But Hebron moves on to the third round. Tascosa with a huge upset over Arlington, and then another blockbuster of a game tomorrow, Geyer versus Lake Ridge. It's unfortunate that only one of those two teams gets to move on because those are two top-notch teams out of this region, guys.
Yeah, and it really comes down to the fact that they're even playing right now because Geyer dropped those last two regular season games, and now it sets up a monumental matchup here in the area around between Geyer and Lake Ridge. We've talked about that battle of dual-threat quarterbacks. The sophomore Eli Stowers for Geyer and Chandler Rogers, one of the best players in the area for Lake Ridge. Winner gets Amarillo Tascosa, who just beat an undefeated Arlington team, also with a great dual threat quarterback in Jahari Rogers. Huge win for Tascosa. So whoever survives that Titanic matchup tomorrow gets a big test against Amarillo Tascosa. This is a really tough region. You thought maybe once Cedar Hill dropped, it was open for anybody, but the caliber of teams that are in here, especially with Hebron now hitting their stride, the way Carson Collins played today, you've got Trajan Bridges, who might be the best football player in this entire region. I don't think that that's a leap.
Nope.
And Michael Black, and the Cinderella story that is the Halton Buffaloes, if they can advance past the Midland Lee Rebels tomorrow.
Man, those would be two massive matchups from the individuals that are on the teams, but also really just the entire firepower that both of those teams have. And of course, we don't know a ton about Amarillo Tascosa. We're going to have to read up on it before next week, see exactly how they were able to defeat Arlington. However, we know they have a little bit of firepower if they are able to take down the Colts as easily as they did, beating them by double digits in that matchup. It's got to be something going right for that Tascosa program. Now let's look at Region 2, Division 2 here at the 6A level. Longview Prosper, we talked about that one in length, but not a whole lot of finals out of this one. A lot of games happening on Saturday. Mesquite Horn, though, man, what a story they've been. We talked about them all year long. 0-7. They make the playoffs, but they don't even just make the playoffs. They're now 3 rounds deep, and that is an unbelievable story. However, they're going to go up against a stout or a third-round opponent, whether it's Cypress Ranch or Spring Westfield. Both of those teams have legitimate firepower, but up at the top, it's Vandergrift, Klein Collins, Prosper Longview. Those are 2 blockbusters. And, of course, the Prosper Longview game playing just across the way at the Ford Center here.
Yeah, and Prosper Longview, I mean, I think a lot of people would look at Longview and say they've got the edge in this region, but a big game tomorrow against Prosper, and whoever comes out of that one, Vandergrift, Klein, Collins. Those are 2
huge teams.
I mean, these are really, really good matchups here in this region. And for Mesquite Horn, I mean, they're playing red hot right now. Nobody really wants to see Horn. Despite their lack of success in the regular season right now, get out the Jags' way, man.
Yes, you're exactly right. That's a dangerous team.
You talk about peaking at the right time. That's a Mesquite Horn team that said, okay, we're going to lose our first 7, and then we're going to get on fire and just make a run through the playoffs. Thank you, Jermaine Givens.
All you got to do is get into the tournament.
That's right, baby.
Then
get
you
into
survive
the dance.
and you advance. Let's go to 5A Division 1. We looked at this one earlier. Lots of finals here. Birdville, Grapevine. A rematch of that district, as well as Grapevine takes off Caprock, and then Birdville, of course, big time win over Cooper. Shows how dominant that district has been, because Denton Ryan's got a game tomorrow in which they should at least take care of business there. Then you got Lubbock Coronado kind of ruining the party a little bit for that district.
The area teams?
Yeah, that District 4 team as they take down Azle, who was at a District 3, but a good Lubbock Coronado team going to face up against the winner of Duval and Denton Ryan, but that Birdville Grapevine game is going to be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, it was great in the first one, 24-20. Birdville able to narrowly beat Grapevine. 2 really good offenses. Grapevine with Cade Rhodes really getting hot right now, and we talked about Grapevine with Cade Rhodes, and then we talked about Birdville with Stone Earl, Ladarius Mixon, the youngsters leading the charge there. But that Birdville defense seems like they're playing some of the best football they have all year long.
Yeah, and it's incredible to see what was going on in that early game. The score to their early game this year between Birdville and Grapevine, only 24-20. You expect that to be more of like one of those 48-44 high-scoring games, but the defense just showed up there. I wonder if that's going to happen again, because both of these offenses are, incredible.
Yeah, they're 2 incredible offenses, and the defenses showed out in that first game, but if they can come back here, it definitely makes some things interesting. However, both of these teams are much better than that first meeting whenever they saw each other earlier in the season, and they've been battle-tested since then. Let's go to Region 2 at the Division 1 ranks, and this is probably my favorite region maybe of the entire playoff system so far. 5A Division 2, or Division 1 Region 2, I should say. Highland Park, College Station tomorrow. Tyler, John Tyler, Lancaster, Lufkin, Frisco, Lone Star. Those are 3 top-notch matchups, guys.
I got to be honest, when I saw this bracket come out, I just thought it was Lufkin and Highland Park on a collision course.
It's true.
And it's not that Lone Star, look, they've got an opportunity tomorrow. If Marvin Mims can play well, I think Lone Star's got a chance. For me, he is their guy, because you know that Lufkin defense is going to shut down that run game. Lone Star's defense, no slouch either, but Lufkin has one of the best squads they've had in a long time. Tyler, John Tyler, Lancaster, we talked about that earlier, should be a fun, explosive game. Highland Park, College Station, really the build-up and the persona of both squads. College Station with the reigning state championship, but the best teams on paper to me are HP and Lufkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that Lufkin Lone Star game, I think, is where I have my eyes, because the defenses in that game are through the roof. And Lufkin, coming into the playoffs, they were the number 5 team in the state at season's end. And then Lone Star with their 35-point win over Legacy last week. I mean, both of these teams are playing fantastic football, 2 very, very, very good defenses. And like you said, Walchuk, if Lone Star is going to have a chance, they're not going to be able to run the ball. They're going to have to be able to throw it. Marvin Mims on the outside, he's going to have to be an absolute stud in this game. They're going to need a couple of big plays from him. I think the first team to score, I'll say 20 points, wins this game.
Should be a whole lot of fun. Real quickly, let's look at Region 2 inside this district, and then we'll get through our area edition of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. This one is final. No other changes throughout Division 2, Region 1. You got Canyon, Randall, Wichita Falls, Ryder, Lubbock, Cooper, Justin, Northwest there. We talked about those games earlier. Now we look at Region 2 here. Aledo, South Oak Cliff. Oh, my goodness, what a matchup. And then you got Reedy, Burles, and Centennial. And I think the consensus was earlier, if you make it out of this region, you got a real good chance to make it.
We had the District of Doom in 7-6-8. Could this be the Region of Doom?
That could have been the Region of Doom. Now we're looking at Division 1, Region 1, and 4A, and then we're going to switch it back up and look at Region 2 at the 4A ranks as well, as Waco, La Vega, and Paris play each other, and then a rematch of the district out of 7. 4A, Argyle, and Salina. It's been a whole lot of fun throughout the area week of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. Plenty of action around the entire area. Guys, who's your star of the night? Eric, you got him first.
Oh, it's an easy one for me. I'm going Jermaine Givens. Mesquite Horn, quarterback, 328 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 153 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Mesquite Horn, nobody wants to see these boys.
I'm going Carson Collins from Hebron, 6 total touchdowns, 208 on the ground, a pair of passing touchdowns as well. Trajan Bridges. The Hebron Hawks offense is rolling.
And as always, my star of the night, the Whataburger Friday Night Stars crew getting the job done as always.
Oh, and Heckma Harrison, of course.
Heckma Harrison.
All his hard work.
Always having you.
But thanks so much for your help.
If I also had to do it, I would say probably Coach Jason Todd, who came in and joined us on the show as the Sock Bears.
Go Golden Bears.
Moving on to the 3rd round. But do want to thank everybody involved here with this Game On Sports production of Whataburger Friday Night Stars. For our Fred Garner, for the boy in the studio, Mr. Chris Beam, getting the job done. Zach Shelton, Chance Williams, Ben Bohart coming in and clutch and helping us out this week. Matt Kent for Heckma Harrison, who's glamping out in the woods somewhere in some cabin. For Eric Chiafalo, Zach Wolchuk, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Once again, we're Whataburger Friday Night Stars. We'll see you next week.
Hugs and hand pounds, everybody.